franchise's next long-term left tackle an easy choice. If they're both gone and Northwestern's Peter Skoronski is available, he should be the pick, even though he projects as an interior lineman. The Titans may not be an all-out rebuild at this point, but the Titans' offensive line sure is. The trenches haven't lost any importance in football, and the Titans' skilled players don't have a chance next season if that doesn't get drastically better. I think we would all agree. Mm-hmm. This offensive line needs help.
Yes.
It needs help drastically. So basically my overall takeaway from this, from Joe's first overall pick, is just take the best offensive lineman available, or the best tackle available, whether it's Paris Johnson, Peter Skoronski, Broderick Jones, so on and so forth. D-Mase, your thoughts on Joe Rexrode, the Titans GM's first pick in the NFL draft?
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Titans go in that direction, but I think they've given themselves some flexibility. Not to say that Rexrode is wrong. I mean, because that's a position at need for the Titans. So if that guy is there that they love and they got ranked high on their board, then at that particular position, then you figure they would take him. But I think the Titans have done enough at this point. Not to say they're not going to do more. Mm-hmm. They've done enough at this point to not make that the number one above all things priority, the offensive line. Had they not gone out and gotten Andre Dillard and some other offensive linemen, I would have said, yes, point on. You got to go get an offensive lineman in this year's draft. But because of what they've done in offseason, I think it's an importance to them because you can never have enough good offensive linemen, just like defensive linemen. You can never have enough good defensive linemen and defensive backs the way the NFL is sort of trending toward being more of a passing team. So you have to have those corners. You have to have those guys that can rush the passer, and you have to have those guys that can protect the passer. So even with, even saying that, I think the Titans have done enough from an offensive standpoint right now. Again, they're going to add more, I'm sure. They're going to draft another or two. But I don't think it's such a dire need for them to draft a guy on the offensive line at the 11th pick. Now, if he's there and he's the highest ranked player on their board and they don't move up, then yeah, I can see him possibly doing that. But I don't think it's when we first started this whole going down this road of who the Titans are going to draft, where this team is at, offensive line was number one. Why? Right. Because free agency hadn't started. So we didn't know what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. But now we've seen.
And they had no linemen.
Exactly. They had no linemen.
Nicholas Petit-Frere was the extent of it.
Exactly. They was in the process of cutting Taylor Lewan and Ben Jones and guys like that. So we knew eventually Dennis Daly was gone. So we knew they had to build this offensive line back up. But what they did systematically for the first sort of wave of free agency, they addressed some of those needs that they had on the offensive line. Don't forget, Andre Dillard was a former first-round draft pick. He has the talent. Everybody said, well, he didn't play at Philly. Look at Philly's offensive line. That's like saying Jimmy Smith. If y'all know Jimmy Smith isn't good because he couldn't play as much in Dallas. Look who they had in Dallas at the time. They had Michael Irvin. They had Alvin. They had all these guys, and Jimmy was their second-round pick. He got hurt. He didn't play as much. What happened? They ended up trading him to Jacksonville, and he's had a Hall of Fame career when he retired. So don't look at Andre Dillard and say, well, because he didn't, start at Philly. Philly has the best offensive line in the National Football League. That doesn't mean he's not a good player. Mm-hmm. The Titans are getting a former first-round draft pick at a young age that they can help develop and be their left tackle.
And that's the idea.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I feel is if they do go out and get an offensive lineman, especially in the first round. I want to focus on the first round here. Maybe you can get a good one in the second round. The first couple of rounds, your most premier picks in this year's draft. If the Titans decide to dedicate one of those picks, specifically the first round pick, to an offensive lineman, I think that would be a very wise choice. Even though they went out and got Andre Dillard, even though they went out and got Daniel Brunskill, I don't think that those are necessarily guaranteed to be your answers at the offensive line. Maybe they are. Maybe they are the answers. Maybe Andre Dillard is every bit of the left tackle that he was expected to be when he was drafted in the first round in, what was that, 2019?
Yep.
In 2019. Maybe he absolutely blossoms into what he was expected to be. And I think that's kind of the hope from the Tennessee Titans. Like, I'll go back to this from Jim Wyatt's mailbag earlier this week when he says the team has a lot of needs. If Andre Dillard pans out, then the team should be good for years to come at the tackle position with Nicholas Petit-Frere on the opposite side. That's the idea, but that's the hope. That's an if. If Andre Dillard pans out to be that kind of left tackle, then yeah, great, you're set, and you didn't have to invest a whole lot of resources in order for him to get him. But if he doesn't, and I'm not saying that I'm expecting him to not, I'm just saying that I don't know. I don't know with Andre Dillard because he hasn't been a starter, a consistent starter in this league throughout his career in the NFL. So I'm not saying that he is, and I'm not saying that he won't. But at least if you do draft a tackle, you've got options. You can be versatile. You can move pieces around. You have insurance, and you have the guys and at least a few insurance pieces to kind of get you to that next step. That if Andre Dillard doesn't pan out, you have your first-round draft pick. If you want to move Nicholas Petit-Frere inside, you can do that because you have your two tackles on the outside.
Well, yeah, and if you look at it, the times that Andre Dillard was able to play, he graded high. Pass blocking, he graded high. Run blocking still needs some work because he's coming out of a system in college where they just did a lot of pass blocking. So Philly knew drafting him, they were going to have to develop him into being a run blocker. He's done okay, but he's more of the pass blocking. They get him here, they develop him to be a run blocking left tackle along with his pass blocking. I believe they've seen enough from Andre Dillard that they went out and they signed him and they penciled him in as their left tackle. I think there would be more of an emphasis coming out of that building if they didn't believe that Dillard was or could potentially be their left tackle of the future. It's just like a first-round draft pick. If you draft Paris Johnson or Broderick Jones, you're still crossing your fingers hoping that this guy turns out to be the lineman that you thought he would be. At least with Andre Dillard, he has played some games in the NFL. He knows what it takes to play at this level, the conditioning and everything that comes along with it. He knows NFL offenses. So I feel better about him than I would a rookie coming in. Not to say the rookie won't be fine, but that first year coming in, this guy is still trying to figure everything out. Well, Dillard has figured it out, so to speak, with another team. Now he comes here, and I do believe he's going to be the tackle that they expect him to be, which means he's going to be a starter for the foreseeable future. Whether they re-sign him after a few years or not, that's up to him. But I think he's in their plans to be their tackle at least until the contract runs out.
And I think the difference between that is if your first-round draft pick doesn't pan out, that's a first-round pick.
Yes.
And we have seen how missed first-round picks have been so detrimental to this football team. If Andre Dillard is not your left tackle for the next 10 years, that's going to be okay.
Yeah.
He's a free agent acquisition. If he is, great.
Exactly.
Good job, Rand Carthon. Good job, scouting team. You found a diamond in the rough. But if Andre Dillard doesn't pan out like that, but you're putting all of your eggs in the Andre Dillard basket and you don't have an alternative, you don't have a backup, then that kind of gets you back onto the offensive lineman carousel and gets this team's offensive line back in the kind of the rut, so to speak, that it's been in since Taylor Lewan has been in and out of the line and since the offensive line has been such a question mark over the last couple of years. Again, Joe Rexrode's mock draft in The Athletic has the Titans taking Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle, out of Georgia. But really, once you read into it, Joe's just saying, hey, take the best tackle available with that 11th pick in the first round. Now, Joe mocks all 6 picks in all 7 rounds of the NFL draft. We're not going to dive into every single one of them because, to be honest with you, I don't know who in the world Antonio Mafi from UCLA is. We're not going to dig into that, but I do want to get into the rest of his mock draft, what we think about Joe's mock draft, and if the Titans step away with this draft, with these position groups, how would we feel about it? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Want to jump into the mind of a 15-year NFL vet? Well, here's your chance.
D-Mase.
It's Ask D-Mase.
Come on, bring them on.
Ask questions on football and life to Derek Mason every Friday at 12:30 on Ask D-Mase.
Don't mess with her. The skilled guy. Money reigns supreme.
On Caroline, Willy, and
D-Mase.
on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
How good to hear from my friends at Dunkin'. Warm up and feel the love with Dunkin'. Treat yourself and a loved one to a brown butter toffee hot or iced latte, which is superb paired with the bacon avocado tomato sandwich. Be sure to try the all-new stuffed biscuit bites. It's a warm biscuit dough wrapped around a mixture of bacon, scrambled egg, and cheddar cheese. Visit us at our newly remodeled Dunkin' on Briley Parkway in Nashville or the new Dunkin' in Mount Juliet and our other locations throughout Middle Tennessee. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Terms apply.
Genesis Diamond's spectacular spring store-wide sale is coming. April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. 3 incredible days of store-wide savings. Up to 35% off engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, wedding bands, plus special financing. Even Genesis GIA-certified diamonds are marked down. Lab-grown diamonds, too. Plus, top jewelry designers are flying in with all new amazing designs. You can't miss this annual event. Save up to $10,000 on some items. It's April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd only. And only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Men, this is Evan Bass with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and I've been helping men with sexual health issues for many years. I've seen the pain and anxiety that men walk into the clinic with when erectile dysfunction is affecting them. And I also know the heartache and difficulty it can bring to their partner. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we've been successfully treating men for ED for many years now. We've seen the amazing impacts that those treatments have on a man's confidence and positivity. And we've seen the wonderful things those treatments also do for a man's relationship. That's why I'm pleased to announce that we are now offering the same great services we offer at our Nashville clinic at our new location in Franklin, which will make it much more convenient for those men living south of Nashville to get treated. So call us today and book your appointment at our Midtown location or at our new clinic in Cool Springs. Your first visit is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments, extra results vary.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, don't miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. You can join us on location as we broadcast live from Wingstop, where flavor gets its wings, located at 3300 Gallatin Pike in Nashville. On Friday, April 28th, yours truly and D-Mase will be out there on Friday night getting you all of your Day 2 NFL draft coverage. So we're breaking down Joe Rexrode's Titans 7-round mock draft as Joe Rexrode puts his GM cap on. In the first round, he has the Titans taking Broderick Jones, offensive tackle out of Georgia, and admittedly, with all of these mock drafts that have come out with trades and the Titans taking a quarterback and so on and so forth, going back to looking at the Titans potentially taking a tackle kind of feels a lot less sexy, feels a lot less fun to talk about, but it's a practical pick by Joe Rexrode. Now with the round 2 pick, Joe Rexrode takes off his GM hat and puts on his orange hat because GB Joe in the second round has the Titans taking Cedric Tillman, wide receiver out of Tennessee with the 41st pick. Says a high ankle sprain cost Tillman much of what would have been a huge 2022 season in Knoxville, and Jalen Hyatt filled the void with his blazing speed and likely will go in the first round. Do you agree with that?
Cedric Tillman going in the first round?
Jalen Hyatt going in the first round.
Jalen Hyatt going in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I don't expect him to. I would be happy for the young man if he did.
Of course.
But I just look at him. Everybody is enamored by his speed, and rightfully so. But two things really, that I'm worried about. One, he didn't run many other routes other than, the go routes. He hasn't, been, adverse to running all the routes in the route tree a lot of times. It was just, you saw him a lot of times running post goals or hooks or just like catching a quick, one step or something like that. So that's one problem. Two is I don't know how he would react to consistent pressure on him. Will he get pushed around? Will he get pushed off his spot? Will he have a hard time getting off the line of scrimmage? Those are things that I do worry about with him. He has top-end speed, world-class speed, but again, that's not the end-all, be-all because I've seen a lot of fast guys flame out faster than they are running. They flame out because they haven't gotten a grip on how to be a receiver in this league. It's easy to be a receiver in college because of the way the college game is. It's a lot harder to be a receiver in the NFL because people figure you out. You got to reinvent yourself every year. If you don't, you're going to get locked down eventually.
Right.
So to me, he has a lot to work on. I wouldn't take him in the first round. Second round, yes. I don't think he gets past the second round. If he does, then somebody's going to get them a gem. But I don't think he gets out of the second round. But the first round, it's a little bit too rich for me.
That's how I kind of feel about Jalen Hyatt. And I almost feel guilty using this every time we talk about a Tennessee offensive player, but I always have to ask, and it's more specifically with quarterbacks and wide receivers, was it your speed or was it the system that allowed you to get that much separation? And it could be a combination of both.
I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
And people are so enamored by it because you can't teach it.
Right.
That's something you can't teach. Either you have it or you don't.
And it's something the Titans need
Exactly. That's
desperately.
something the Titans need. But I want people to understand this. There's a difference with being fast, and there's a difference in having game speed. I like fast guys; they're great. But if I don't turn on the film and see that speed on when I turn it on, and I'm talking about in everything that you do, not just running a go route. I'm talking about I want to see every route you run and how you come off the line of scrimmage. I want to see how you put pressure on that defensive back. Some guys have speed and don't play with it. Some guys don't have the world-class speed, but you turn on the tape, it's like, wow. Anquan Bolton is a guy that I look at. He didn't have blazing speed. He probably was a 4.5 guy, high 4.5. But when you turned on the film, damn, he played fast. Jerry Rice, he played fast. I didn't have world-class speed, but I played fast. That's what the Titans are talking about. When they're talking about speed, they're just not talking about, I clocked them at a 4.3 or 4.2, 4.1. No, I want guys that play fast. Guys, you don't necessarily have to time fast, but if you're playing fast, that's what I want.
Rand Carthon explained it, I think, perfectly when he said he was talking to, I forgot he was sitting down with, maybe Jim Wyatt. But he said, if you invite me over to your house and we both go to your house, you drive in your car, I drive in my car, you're going to get there faster because you know how to get there. Me, I have to look at my phone. I'm looking at the directions. I may take a wrong turn here and there. So that's the difference of not just physical speed, not just you can run really fast, but do you know where you need to go and
you know what you're doing.
Know what you're
doing. When
That's
you know what
speed.
you're doing, you can play with the speed that you have. When you're hesitant and you don't know what you're doing, you could be a 4.1 guy, but your hesitancy is going to cause you to play at a 4.5 level. No, I'd rather have a 4.5 guy that knows what he's doing and he's playing at a 4.3 speed.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
What do you think about Cedric Tillman?
I love Cedric Tillman. And I've raved about him last year. I've raved about him this year. He has, and not to say that Jalen Hyatt doesn't have it. I don't want this to be a comparison between Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. They're two different receivers.
It's inevitably going to happen.
It's going to happen because they're on the same team.
I hear you.
Jalen Hyatt reminds me of Hunter, Justin Hunter. Fast guy, speed, tall, but when you saw him and you actually put him in an NFL game, it didn't equate. What he did in college didn't turn out to be the same thing in the NFL. Why? Because maybe he just didn't figure it out. What I see from Cedric Tillman, I see, guys like Peerless Price that came out of there. Guys like Joey Kent, guys that not only had speed, but they played fast because they ran all these routes. They were well versed in route running. Cedric Tillman to me is well versed in route running. not only can he beat you over the top, he doesn't have blazing speed, but he has enough speed to get behind defenders. Not only can he beat you, down the field, he can terrorize you in the middle of the field, a la Juwan Jennings. He's a guy that can make those tough contested catches. He has dog in him. Not to say Jalen Hyatt doesn't, but I see it in Cedric Tillman. He has, and that's something you can't teach. That's going to allow you to elevate your game even higher, make you play bigger than what you are. I think he's, 6'1", 6'2" anyway. Because he has that dog in him, he's going to play bigger than what he is. Steve Smith, I look at him. He's 5'9", but he played like he was 6'2", 6'3", because he had dog in him. He always wanted to be on an attack. I see that from Cedric Tillman. So if they do get him in the second round, I think it would be a plus for the Titans.
I wouldn't hate it.
No, I wouldn't.
In the slightest. Again, we're breaking down Joe Rexrode's Titans 7-round mock draft. In the first round, he's taking Broderick Jones, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Round 2, Cedric Tillman, wide receiver out of Tennessee. And just kind of, lightning round through the rest of the picks. In round 3, he's taking Trey Palmer, wide receiver out of Nebraska. Do you know anything about Trey Palmer?
No, have not watched Trey Palmer. Let's put it this way. He has not stood out because I've watched Nebraska play several times. But he hasn't been a guy that stood out from anybody else.
Fair.
So.
Yeah, Joe writes he had the fastest 40 among receivers at the Combine. He had a 4.33 40. So that's, bringing that speed element into everything. If Cedric Tillman is going to be a little bit more of your versatile guy, maybe not the fastest guy in the field, Jalen Hyatt was your speedy guy, then in comes your speedy guy in the third round with Trey Palmer, wide receiver out of Nebraska. Payne Durham, tight end out of Purdue. Round 6, Iku Leota, the edge rusher out of Auburn, and I apologize for butchering that because I'm sure I inevitably did. And then around 7, Antonio Mafi, the guard out of UCLA. I am not going to pretend like I know anything about any of those late round guys. So not looking in the specifics of it all, not looking into the individual players themselves. But if the Titans walked away from this year's draft with a tackle, 2 receivers, a tight end, an edge rusher, and an offensive guard, like Joe Rexrode has mocked here, I think you're at least checking your boxes of positions of need. I don't think that you're done. I don't think you can just kick your feet up and say, yep, all of our holes are filled. But it's a very practical approach, I think, to the draft this year.
I think it is, but I think one position is missing. I do believe,
corner.
even though they went on to sign a corner or two, I do believe they need desperately to go get a corner because, listen, you don't know what's going on with Caleb Farley. McQuarrie had a really good rookie season, but you're not projecting him, even though I think he can play inside, outside because he has that grit in him. With the way the NFL is now, he's going to have a little bit harder time covering those bigger receivers. And then you look at Fulton. He's dealing with a hamstring issue all the time. Molden, same thing. So I got to get another guy in here that can compete with them for a backup position or a starting position.
And it's not just about filling positions of need. That's something that we've talked about a lot, is that you don't want to handicap yourself into only taking positions that you need. So looking at it from a best player available standpoint, how would we evaluate Joe Rexrode's most recent mock draft? And we will get into that coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts. 615-737-1025 is our phone number out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators in action tonight, taking on the Minnesota Wild. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063 the game.
It's the final week of the regular season for the Nashville Predators.
And the shot is scored! Predators, Kelly on the power play.
As they return home to Bridgestone Arena.
That's what this time of year is about. You want to be able to enjoy it.
Puck is blasted at Saros and makes the stop.
We are your home for Smashville. 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willy Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
It's time for another Kubota field event at Coleman Tractor of White House. Their biggest sale event of the year will take place in White House on Saturday, April 22nd. Don't miss this perfect opportunity to demo Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more. Take advantage of Kubota's competitive financing offers. Receive a coupon for up to $250 off select purchases. Plus, enter to win prizes and free barbecue lunch from 11 to 1. Try it and buy it during the Kubota field event Saturday, April 22nd from 9 to 2 p.m. at Coleman Tractor of White House at 3613 Highway 31 West.
Hello there. My name is Seychelle, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is the punch of flavors that's unlike any other. You get the crispy tenderness of the chicken and that hint of sourness from the pickles. Ta-da!
Hey, I'm Juan, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is you know you're gonna get chicken that's crispy, golden, and juicy. This is the gold standard of chicken sandwiches.
Order the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real customers paid for their testimonials.
When you want live and local,
if they were just better at the offensive line,
you can be a contender in the AFC again.
They've had more winning seasons than not. 102.5 and 106.3, The Game has you covered. Looking for some national programming?
Why do I want to get a running back like that 5 more years?
The AFC now is so deep at quarterback.
Check out 94.9 The Fan. Nashville's home for all things sports is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan.
Hey Nashville, this is Vanderbilt head coach Jerry Stackhouse. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3. The Game. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena. Willy Donick joins the fun now. Willy, how we doing?
I am doing well, guys. It's good to be here. Beautiful day outside. Man, let's just hold this. Can we bottle this up for the next 3 months?
Forever.
Probably not.
It is a beautiful day today. But, Willy, we're breaking down Joe Rexrode's most recent mock draft in The Athletic because it is draft season, but it means a little bit more when it's a homegrown mock draft. And in Joe Rexrode's mock draft, he has the Titans taking Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle out of Georgia in round 1. Round 2, Cedric Tillman, wide receiver out of Tennessee. He's got the Titans taking another wide receiver, a tight end, an edge rusher, and an offensive guard in the later rounds. And we were saying, hey, I mean, if the Titans step away with those position groups addressed in those rounds, you could probably feel pretty good about the Titans filling those holes or filling those positions of need. Of course, you're not done. Like D-Mase said, you're still going to need a corner. That cornerback room needs some help. But you would get a wide receiver, you'd get a tackle, you'd get some depth, you'd feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah, I would think. Now, I haven't asked Joe what his method, what's his method behind the madness. But, I don't know if he consulted any inside sources or anything like that. If I were putting it together, I would probably tend, just because I'm not a talent evaluator, I don't know all of these guys. Like Teron actually evaluates for himself, which I really admire. He talks to as many guys as he can. He looks at the film. I don't know if Joe's done that on these guys. So what I would tend to do would be more of a need-based, right? It's easy to say, hey, let's look at the roster for the Titans. What do they need? okay, they might need an inside linebacker. Well, they might need a corner. So let's look at the corners. So I guess that's how I would go about it. So I'd love to talk to Joe about how he arrived at it. I've often wondered, though, what is the best way to draft? Can you hurt yourself sometimes if you get too dialed into the positions of need and rather than look at the best player? Like if you get a guy that's right there, and maybe it's not a position of need, but, man, he stands out with the best grades that you've got right there. That's really the art, I think, of picking well every year, right?
Because whenever a player becomes a Pro Bowler, you're not going to think about, well, did they need that position when they drafted him? You're just going to think about, oh, my goodness, this is one of the best players in the league. So I'm glad you brought that up, because there are two different philosophies of drafting, is drafting positions of need versus drafting the best player available. So I think that if you're looking at need, Joe addressed a good bit of needs that the Titans have. But looking through that other philosophy, that other scope of best player available, looking at Joe Rexrod's draft, that's kind of one of my biggest takeaways, at least from the first few rounds. Joe didn't necessarily go by, quote-unquote, best player available. And, in a mock draft, it's hard to do that. But basing Joe's draft off of Dane Brugler's mock draft, in round 1, he has the Titans taking Broderick Jones at number 11. In Dane Brugler's rankings, he has Broderick Jones ranked as the 15th best overall player. To Joe's credit, he wrote, just take the best tackle available. So, that's, you're taking the 15th best player at 11. That's not necessarily the greatest value. Round 2, he has the Titans taking Cedric Tillman at 41. Dane Brugler has Cedric Tillman ranked as the 57th best player in this year's draft. In round 3, he has the Titans taking Trey Palmer at number 72. Dane Brugler has him ranked as the 95th best player. Now, anything can happen on draft day. You can have the 5th best player in the draft fall to you at 11, or you may just have to take, whatever it might be. But each of these, because Dane Brugler ranks 1 through 100, and each of these top 100 picks, or the top 3 picks that the Titans have, and within Dane Brugler's top 100, they're all ranked below where the Titans are taking. So it almost feels like while you would address positions of need, you're not getting very good value by taking the 95th best player in this draft with the 72nd pick.
No, I mean, a lot of it, and obviously, Rex doing his mock draft, he referenced, Bugler on his mock draft. I mean, not necessarily his mock, but his top 100 or 200 players. And like you said, Caroline, it's hard to place exactly the top player on your board where that player ranks, because maybe that player ranks lower than, say if you're sitting there with the second round pick and you're looking at a Cedric Tillman, you're at 41. You think and you believe he's the best player, but you start looking around and where everybody else has him ranked, and you may have him ranked a little bit lower. He's not the 41st person. There's other people ahead of him, but he might be the, say if there's 6 wide receivers, 5 of them already went. He's in that top tier of wide receivers. So do you pass him by and say, well, no, he doesn't rank that high on our board, but he is the 6th best wide receiver and 5 of them have already been taken. So do you pass him up, or do you say, listen, we're going to take him because he ranked high and it is a player at need?
That
and
is
you're not necessarily looking at the whole thing. Yeah.
That's a great what if, because that's exactly the situation where I think you probably have a pretty good debate going in your little room where everybody's weighing in one last time and the clock is going, because I think that is a dilemma. It's hard. If you do need a wide receiver, man, you need a wide receiver. And this guy's way better than the next guy on the board. The next time it comes around to ratings, I'm sure there's somebody in that room going, look at the ratings on this guy here.
Yeah.
And he may not be a wide. He may be
not be the position of need.
Exactly.
It could be Jalen Carter.
Exactly.
Not necessarily a position of need, but are you going to pass on a guy like that?
Yeah.
It's a tough philosophy. Yeah. And I'm not picking on Joe here. And, of course, the only rankings that matter or your board, or whatever, however the Titans have evaluated those players. I mean, maybe Broderick Jones is the third best player on their board. So if he falls to you at 11, then absolutely you have to take him, because their evaluation is really the only one that matters. But if we're going to go off of the Athletic, if Joe's our GM and Dane Brugler is our board, then the value wouldn't be great. And that's the tough thing to kind of weigh.
Yeah, I guess that's always sort of the dilemma of, okay, you have, let's not even say the first round, you have that second round, and you're picking at 41st, and you see a guy that you like at a position in need, but there's other guys on the board that rank higher on your board, and they're there. So do you take the player at need, i.e. a wide receiver, or just say that running back is ranked a little bit higher, or that safety is ranked a little bit higher? Do you take the safety or the running back, or do you take the player at need, like Willy said? Because if we come back around, that guy may not be there.
Do you
so
risk
do we take
trading
him now?
back?
Exactly. Do we take him now, or do we trade back and still be able to get him right around where we have him on our board?
And they need more picks. That is something that would be beneficial. What is it? There is a hole in there, and if they could grab more picks in that second, third,
they don't have a fourth-round pick this year.
So that's, if you could grab a couple more picks in there, you got a better chance of maybe bolstering some areas on the roster. So that's worth looking at.
Indy Ben texts in the text line, full name driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says the Titans are almost in a spot where they have to draft on need versus getting the best value. Their offensive line and wide receiver core is among the worst in the league. But then that's where it comes into let's trade back. Because why would you draft, let's say the Titans say Jackson Smith and Jigba is the best player in this year's draft, or the best wide receiver, rather, in this year's draft. Well, are the Titans going to take him at 11? If you have him ranked best wide receiver but 20th best player, well, that's when you trade back. If they say we absolutely positively have to get a wide receiver in the first round, I don't think that's the smartest way to draft. But if they look at it like that, well, that's when you trade back. You grab more picks. You get more options or opportunities at hitting on picks in this year's draft when you have more cracks at it. Or you just go get the best player available. And maybe that best player, there's a Jalen Carter, is the difference maker for your team.
Oh, if Jalen Carter falls that to 11, I think you have to throw conventional wisdom to the board and say, listen, this guy right here, I don't know how he got to us, but we have to draft him.
Welcome to Nashville.
I don't care if we do need a tackle, we do need a cornerback. I get all that. We do need a receiver. But guys like Jalen Carter don't come around too often. And you book him with Jeffrey Simmons, I mean, good Lord. There's nothing you can't do from a defensive front with the guys that you already have. So, I can – if that was to happen, I can see them going best player available. But if it's like a Jackson and Jigba, it's like, okay, how far is he off from the second and the third wide receiver? If I got them all sort of in a bunch and he's like a 87 and these other guys are 86, 85, then I'm trading back. I'm not drafting him at the 11th pick, because even if I don't get him, I can get somebody else that's comparable to him.
If you have a trade partner,
it
feels pretty like a no-brainer. One texter texts in, and I feel like I've heard this a lot, says I'm out, not necessarily specifically about Broderick Jones, but the idea. One texter says, I'm out on Broderick Jones, no more Georgia offensive linemen.
Oh, come on now. You can't say that.
Can't do that.
Can't do that.
Don't let one bad seed ruin your perception, because if you say no more Georgia players ever, you're going to miss out on a lot of good players.
Miss out on a lot of good ones.
I understand being jaded. I understand a little bit of apprehension there, but don't let one bad seed ruin the rest of the bunch. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. So Joe's most recent mock draft in the Athletic, he has the Titans 7-round mock draft. It has a different vibe, maybe, than some of the recent mock drafts that we've seen from a Daniel Jeremiah or a Dane Brugler, a Mel Kiper, so on and so forth. But I want to ask you two, I want to ask the callers, the texters, all of our listeners, what is more exciting? What do Titans fans want? And what would be the best for the Titans, both in the near and far future? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robby and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jared Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jared Companies. For more, visit jaredcompaniesinc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Let's tell you about Lee Company. Tonight, Nashville continues with 2 more home games tonight and tomorrow here in Smashville. Our radio coverage will begin at 6 o'clock tonight against the Minnesota Wild, and Lee Company will be the title sponsor. Max Hurst will be on the radio coverage. Pete Weber and Jay Moore on the call for the game. Lee Company has all your services ready to go. Now, today might be a day you crank up that air conditioning for the first time, or maybe you did it in the last couple of days. If it's not running smoothly and efficiently, maybe you're not getting the cooling sensation you're looking for, call Lee Company because they're ready to help you. 615-567-1000. And also think down the road. Don't put yourself in that position again. Put yourself in a position to be covered all year round, and that is by being a part of their home maintenance plan. It's a great program. We use it in our house. We have for a long time. You get the yearly checkups on your air conditioning, your heating, your plumbing, and your electric service. Small monthly fee, discounts on repairs. It works very well. It's going to save you money over the long term. 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com.
Preds fans, you coming out for tonight's big game? The pre-party action is at Landshark Bar and Grill in Margaritaville, steps away from Bridgestone Arena. Enjoy great specials like $3 off any appetizer in the bar area and $20 bucket specials on Bud, Bud Light, Mick Ultra, and Landshark beer. A sports TV viewing mecca, the Landshark Bar and Grill is a Lower Broadway must-see. That's the Landshark Bar and Grill in Margaritaville on the corner of 4th Avenue and Broadway. Stop in before the Preds game tonight.
It's time for the NBA playoffs, folks. Get excited and get in on the action right from the first tip with FanDuel Sportsbook. Joe Rexroad here to let you know that all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every weekend when you bet the NBA playoffs. That's right. You just place a 3+ leg same-game parlay or same-game parlay plus on any NBA playoff game, and you get bonus bets back if you don't win. One series I'm excited for, Kings-Warriors, and you know, I like the Warriors, by the way. But the way Klay is shooting right now, Klay Thompson, I think he'd be part of one of my same-game parlays. Get in on this. You get great promotions every day. It's safe and secure. You get paid instantly. It's easy to use. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/Joe102. Get a no-sweat same-game parlay every weekend of the NBA playoffs. That's FanDuel.com/Joe102. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And you must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789.
Spring into action. Take the short drive to Social Furniture on the West Side. You'll be amazed with Social Furniture's huge selection of top quality, name brand furniture. Social Furniture has your dream furniture on sale now during our spring home makeover sale. Why shop at Social Furniture? Great furniture, great service, great prices. Full service, hassle-free delivery, and interest-free financing with no money down. Make Social Furniture a great place to furnish your home. If you want a deal, don't wait, shop now.
I shop at Social Furniture because of the money I saved and the way I'm treated.
They talk sports.
The Predators get the 2 points, which is obviously what they needed.
They're not making big moves that are jaw-dropping signings in free agency.
They talk life.
Well, I almost just fell down the stairs, so there's that.
My backpack was so heavy, the seatbelt alarm was going off the entire trip.
But most of all, they have a good time.
Here or there.
Yeah.
Chase and Michelle, weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We're out here at Pete and Terry's at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators taking on the Minnesota Wild tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. We will have all of your pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Joe Rexroad had a 7-round Titans mock draft, and it's a very practical approach to the draft. Offensive tackle, 2 wide receivers, tight end, edge, guard, not big shifts, not big changes, not any big reaches, just pretty much across the board positions of need for the Tennessee Titans. And it's a big change or a big difference from what we've seen from some of the more recent national mock drafts. Like Mel Kiper's most recent mock draft that has the Titans trading up to number 3 and taking Anthony Richardson. Like that 33rd team draft we saw a couple of weeks ago that had the Titans also trading up to number 3, taking Will Levis. Big, splashy moves for a quarterback. 2 questions about that. First and foremost, what do you think Titans fans would rather have happen? A more Joe Rexrode-esque mock draft, or a more Mel Kiper 33rd team, Daniel Jeremiah bold draft for the Titans this year?
Oh, man. I don't know. That's an interesting question because, some people look at it as, well, the Titans didn't fill the holes that they needed right now in the first wave of free agency, because there will be a second wave, I believe, after the draft and after June 1st. I think there'll be another wave of guys you can kind of sort of pick through. So some fans may look at it as the Titans still haven't addressed their needs, and we've got text about it. They still need offensive linemen. So I guess it's right in alignment with what Joe is saying. If Paris Johnson is not there, then you get the next best tackle, because I don't think the kid from Northwestern.
Peter Skronsky.
Yeah, Skronsky.
He just sounds like a good offensive lineman, doesn't he?
Skronsky.
You can put him at tackle, but he's
hand in the dirt.
He's more suited for the guard position, and I think if you draft him to be a tackle, you're going to be disappointed because the player's not going to match the position that you drafted him in to play tackle. If you draft him as a guard, I think you'll get more production out of him, and that pick would be of value when you look at it years down the line. So some of the fans may be looking at it like, they haven't addressed it, so they need one. And then you got a subsection of fans that think, okay, they've addressed it with Dillard, as I believe they have as well, so they can go another route. They can look at another position, whether it be moving up in the draft, getting a quarterback, or moving back in the draft and getting your receiver. So that's kind of a hard question to sort of really pinpoint, because there are some fans that are on both sides of the gate here.
I just can't get over Skronsky. Like, he's got to be good. That would be what I would say in the draft room. Like, he just sounds like he'd be good at tackle.
This guy has to be good.
Like a corn-fed Midwestern offensive lineman.
Pick him.
It's like he has to be good. Like, come on.
It's like if you're on the jury, you're like, he just looks guilty to me. He just looks suspicious. I don't believe what he's saying.
I don't like his suit. He's guilty.
Oh, man. Well, first of all, kudos to Joe for doing all this. Like, this would not be something that I would want to do, put one of these together. And so when you ask the question, what do Titans fans want? It probably depends on if you're one of those guys that likes to really get down in the mud and learn about all these players. So when you see them and you're watching the draft, you're like, oh, yeah, I've been reading about this guy.
That's that Hawaii guard that I love.
Yeah, I'm not that guy, right? So I'm not going to go that deep. So when the names start going on the board after the first round, usually I'm just like, oh, okay, let's go read up on this guy. Let's listen to what they have to say. But some people really get into this stuff, right? So, what's boring to me might not be boring to, Joe Fan, who just texted us on the line and said, hey, we got to have this guy in the 4th round. Are you kidding me? Because he's been down there, he's been doing the research. So it just has never ceased to amaze me. And even ESPN people say this, how big of an event it's become. Remember when these streets were just completely loaded with people?
Yes.
When we had the draft? I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Wild.
Phenomenal.
Couldn't see a single inch of blacktop.
And what are they doing? They're standing there among thousands of people and watching guys get picked. How many of the people standing there knew who half of those guys were after the first round, right? Because it was the same in the second round, the third round, all the way through. It was just amazing to me how much people get into this. I guess just the idea of hope for your team. If you hit on these guys, your team's going to get way, way better. Like, it's such an essential thing, but the actual process and the research and things like that, we get into it, but at the same time, when those names come on the board, I don't know who most of them are after a while. So what does it mean to be practical? What does it mean to be exciting? I guess it's exciting if you wheel and deal and you're making a lot of trades, or if you pick guys off of Alabama and you've watched Alabama play a bunch, or if you're an SEC person and you've seen more of these guys and your team ends up picking 3 guys from the SEC, you're like, oh, I remember seeing those guys play. That guy had a great game against LSU. I remember that. I was there. That's exciting, I guess. But it's different for different people, right?
And I think it's different. Let's say if your NFL team has a top 5 pick, you're probably more into it. Or if your college team that you're a fan of has a few guys projected to go in the first round. That's a lot more exciting than it is when they're not. Like the 2020 draft for me, I was like, well, I know all these guys.
Yeah.
And I went to school with all these guys. And this year, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
Who is that?
So it's the levels of excitement vary every year for a team, college and NFL, depending on how much you're invested into it. Like if I'm a Carolina fan, I'm thrilled about this draft. But I weirdly enough think that Titans fans would almost prefer the Titans have a quote-unquote boring draft where they just stick at 11 or maybe trade back to the late teens, high 20s and take a tackle, take a receiver, rather than the most recent Mel Kiper mock draft philosophy of Titans are trading up and going to get Anthony Richardson. And they're trading all these picks away. I weirdly almost feel like Titans fans want a conservative approach this year. The Titans fans just want them to go out, fill your needs, and then go from there.
It's almost like do you want to? It's like that with anything. I think in this world, do you want to take a chance and go for that big bang?
High risk, high reward.
Or do you want to sort of play a conservative? And
play the percentages.
Yeah, play the percentages and say, okay, let's move down. Let's take this safe guy, because it is a player of need, whether it be a tackle, interior lineman, or receiver. I think fans probably are more so inclined to think that way sometimes because, one, you didn't have to give up anything to move up. And then, 2, it's a player that you do need. So in 3 years, if this player isn't what you thought he was, you can't say, well, man, they moved up and got that guy and they wasted a pick and they wasted this and whatnot. I go back to Corey Davis. Had he not been drafted, 3rd overall? Say if he had been drafted 23rd overall, people wouldn't have as much to say about him at 23 as they did at 3 because he's a bust. He didn't give us anything. I'm glad they didn't keep him. Well, if they had got him at 23 and he gave you that production, he's still a first rounder. So why would you say, why would you change your perception of who he is as a player because he was drafted 3rd and not 23rd? He still gave you production. Now, whether that production matched the place that he was drafted, that's a different story. But he still was a good player for this organization. And I think sometimes we get into, he was drafted this high, so the expectation, which is true, the expectation is this. So, Titans fans, we don't want to go that route anymore. We've been burned. So let's play it safe, move down, draft a player at need, and I'm sure he will work out.
And if the Titans do decide to go for it, trade the picks,
I say go for it.
Get Anthony Richardson. I know all the Titans fans that we shouldn't do that, are like, yeah, we got our quarterback. And then also the other kind of philosophical question is, which scenario makes you a better team this year, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And it's you can't answer that question now. Because you could say, well, an offensive tackle can help you right now. In theory, yeah, it would. Or you would say in 3 years, Anthony Richardson's going to be the best quarterback in the league. You could say that in theory, yeah. But it's tough to answer which is the better philosophy.
It's all theory.
That's
what makes it compelling is there's no set way of doing it, right?
And all of the questions that we're asking and all the answers that we want, we are never going to know. It's all under lock and key within that building. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Jeffrey Simmons inked a 4-year contract extension with the Tennessee Titans. He spoke with the media yesterday, a really emotional, heartfelt testimony from Jeffrey Simmons yesterday. But we also heard from his agent. He's been on several podcasts and spoke about how the process went down. We will discuss that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:45. Brought to you by Jarrett Companies. Now hiring experienced sprinkler experts. Go to jarrettfire.com. JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, a company above and beyond industry standards.
Jasper's on West End Avenue is your neighborhood bar and restaurant. They offer a fun atmosphere with a game room, TVs, a large bar, lounge area, and patio seating. Plus, free parking. That's right, free parking on West End. Come into Jasper's today to enjoy their elevated bar fare and well-crafted cocktails, along with other weekly specials like happy hour, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m., and brunch Friday through Monday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's Jasper's on West End, Nashville's place to gather, play, eat, and drink.
Genesis Diamond's most anticipated event of the year is coming next weekend, April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Huge store-wide savings, plus the unveiling of thousands of new, unique designs from the biggest names in jewelry. All new collections from names like Tacori, Verragio, and more. Rings, earrings, pendants, bands, many never seen before, all specially priced. Save up to 35% store-wide and get zero interest financing. Special pricing on natural and lab-grown diamonds, April 21st through the 23rd. Only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea. With smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/offer. That's ramp.com/offer to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/offer.
Now, your Game Center update.
This is Nick Keyser. 2 more games to play in Nashville this season as the Predators are hosting the Minnesota Wild tonight. Nashville isn't part of the Stanley Cup playoffs, but defenseman Ryan McDonough knows what this team should play for through Friday.
I think if there's one thing we should hang our hat on is to put forth a good effort for him, because he's gave us every chance every night to win and try to make this push here to make the playoffs. So I think that's what our focus will be, is playing hard for our goalies. Both of them have been unbelievable.
And Jeffrey Simmons officially put ink to his new contract yesterday. Simmons' deal comes in at 4 years for $94 million, with $66 million guaranteed. And the Nashville Sounds are 2-0 so far against the Norfolk Tide after an 8-6 win last night. They'll be back in action on 94.9 The Fan starting at 6:35 p.m. on Throwback Night. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 1025 and 106.3.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead. The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
you are hands down my favorite radio personality of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern ahead of the Predators matchup with the Minnesota Wild tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock, pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Elliot Friedman will join us in 1 hour. We'll get his thoughts both on the Predators and the playoff race around the league. But Paul Duracell, Jeffrey Simmons' agent, has been doing kind of a media tour, going on podcasts, going on radio shows, will be on our show tomorrow at noon. So we will get Paul DeRussell's thoughts on everything behind the scenes, what went down with Jeffrey Simmons' contract. But I was listening around to some of the things that he was on. D-Mase, you were too, listening to some shows, some podcasts that he had been featured on, just to kind of get a good idea of
a good feel of who he was and everything else. Yeah.
The deal, everything behind the scenes. But there was one thing that really stood out to me. It was one thing that I listened to, and D-Mase, I think it was what you sent me as well. He mentioned something very similar. And this was Paul DeRussell on a Raiders podcast about the behind-the-scenes X's and O's of Jeffrey Simmons' contract.
For me, man, some agents care a lot about these puffed up APY numbers, right? You can have 27. I could have gotten 27 million a year and it wouldn't have been real money. Could have had a 5-year deal on the table for 125 with 66 guaranteed. I mean, all those things make me look good as an agent because the people who don't know, they're like, oh my God, Jeffrey Simmons signed for $100-something million. But up front, we will always say our thing was we wanted guaranteed money. We wanted flexibility to get back to the table. We wanted short-term security, short and long-term security with an opportunity to come back to the table when Jeff is the best football D tackle in the world.
My first thought when I heard him say that, if you could have gotten 27 a year, why didn't you? If you could have gotten 5 years, 125, why didn't you?
Because he told you. It's all fluff money. We talked about this and we've been talking about this in regards to Jeffrey's contract for over a month now. The AAV looks good for who? He just said it. It looks good for me, the agent, especially when I go out to recruit other players. Hey, look, defensive tackles. You know, you go to the guy that represents, A.J. Brown and Deebo Samuel and all these, these 5 really, really good to great wide receivers potentially. And he can go out and say, look what I got all of them. They're AAVs. Look what I got all. And some people are enamored by that. But then when you start to dig, it's like, well, that's a lot of funny money at the end. You may not get that. What Jeff Agent is saying is correct, and this is the route more players should take.
Let me ask you this, Derek. How many players do you think have maybe fallen for that, even back in the earlier days? Because I'll say this as a media person, in the early days of the salary cap, when I was just starting doing this for a living, you try to learn about the cap, right? You're learning. And when you first see so-and-so signed a brand new deal, 5 years for $80 million, I didn't know when it first started that that's not how it really goes, right? It takes people to kind of teach you, hey, yeah, look at the guaranteed money.
Exactly.
That's what you're looking at. Some of these years at the end, they may not ever get to these years, right? So that last 15 or 20 million. So it takes a while to learn some of the nuances there. If you're a young player and your agent comes to you and he says, hey, I got you a deal, 5 years for $80 million. I mean, how many players maybe didn't think, or maybe, can you trust your agent enough to be able to tell you, hey, you're only guaranteed to get this? Like, I just wonder, especially in the early years when it was kind of all new to everybody.
I think in earlier years, guys, agents, and I'm not saying the agents, all agents did it, so they can sort of boost up their clientele, later on down the line, but you're trying to get what you believe is the best deal for your guy. And I don't think many guys back then, there may have been some, but I'm sure there's been a lot that looked at that AAV and was like, wow, I'm getting this much, and never really did look at, well, how much of it are you really going to get? Jeff Agent is telling you, listen, we could have got 27, 25, 26 million per, but at the end of the day, that wouldn't have been the best contract for my client. My client wants guaranteed money. And I'm going to tell you this. We can go through a contract and kind of point things out, and I was listening to Jared, and he kind of pointed all these things out. But a player like Jeff, as young as he is, and he's not riddled with injury, and his play is going to continue to increase, regardless of what that contract says that is really guaranteed, Jeff's going to get that money. Make no mistake. He's going to get all of that money. Why? Because he's that type of player. That's like saying Patrick Mahomes signs this huge deal. We know a lot of it really is funny money, and some of it says it's guaranteed, but it's not. But how many people really think that Patrick Mahomes won't get that money?
But
he will.
That's kind of my point with what he was saying, though, is because he said we could have gotten 5 years. And I don't know if he really means we could have gotten that or if it was more of like an idea kind of thing. But when he says we could have gotten 5 years, 4 years, $125 million, whatever it was, $66 million in guarantees, those are the same guarantees, but a higher AAV. So you would at least be adding more money that Jeff could potentially
He would have had to add another year possibly, and he didn't want it. He said, we want to be able to have the flexibility to get back to the table earlier rather than later. And this contract that we have affords us that ability to get back to the table quick enough. We may get back to the table even before the contract is done. Because the Titans may want to restructure it and give him more money up front. So to me, this was definitely a win, obviously, for the Titans, but it was a huge win for Jeffrey Simmons and his camp. Why? Because if Jeff continues to play the way he has been playing, and there's no sign that he's not, if he continues to play this way, if the Titans don't pay him, guess what? Somebody else is going to pay him, and they're going to pay him when he's under 30. So this is a huge deal for Jeffrey Simmons because he has the flexibility to get out of it before he turns the age of 30. That's the way I look at it. So it's a great deal. And he's right. The AAV means nothing anymore. It's what am I getting guaranteed?
And if the let's say, because he said we could have gotten $27 million, if that meant lower guarantees, then I would totally understand. Go with the more guarantees. Because I think that's kind of look at AJ. You know, he wanted the higher AAV to go along with the rest of the wide receiver market. But that may have meant lower guarantees, which isn't, I don't think is very smart to go with a higher AAV, lower guarantee. To your point, D-Mase, you want the higher guarantees. You want the money on the table now that you know that you're going to get. So if the higher AAV meant lower guarantees, then no, don't do that. Go with the higher guarantees. But if the guarantees would have been the same, then you just go with the higher number.
It's like a big shell game. I wonder, too, how much it has changed and evolved since the early days, right, when it was all new, because I think there's always probably some mind games going on in the negotiations between the agents and the GMs, and I think there's probably some different philosophies on what's the best way to build your roster if you're the GM, and what's the best way to maximize for your client if you're the agent. So it's just interesting, the different ways that go about it, and it's been going on for years and years and years. I just wonder, I'd love to have somebody that's done it for a long time tell me how much has changed since when, Derek, you were negotiating your deals, right? And you had to have that balance of how much am I getting guaranteed and how much could I potentially get if I stay healthy and I stay on for the length of the contract.
I wish, and I had a great agent or agent in Lamont and Peter. But I wish that last year when I left Baltimore, I wish I wouldn't have done the contract the way it was done. It was a 2-year, but then it was the last year with Baltimore. I think we ended up signing a 2-year deal, but essentially it was a 1. I wish I would have taken less that second year because I knew I wasn't going to see that second year. I wish I would have sort of balanced it out where they could afford to keep me that last year rather than it ballooning that second year. It looks good as far as an AAV for an older guy, but, you know, in retrospect, as I look back on it, and I've done this is not the first time, I've done this years ago, like, man, maybe I should have took a little bit less in regards to an AAV and sort of balance the contract out, and then I would have possibly been able to stay in Baltimore another year because I was still playing really good football. But because that number had ballooned in that second year, it was like, okay, we got to move on. You're getting older. We got to move on. They had just drafted the kid out of Maryland. I don't know. I'm forgetting his name now. But they ended up drafting him, so he was going to end up coming in and being that second receiver opposite Anquan Bolden. Mm-hmm. So, but you're right. Not many guys back then looked at it like they should now.
And we'll continue the conversation coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts on this
Torrey
as well.
Smith.
There
Torrey
we go.
Smith. Yeah, Torrey Smith.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. And hey, Preds fans, hang out tonight before the Preds game in the Superbook Lounge in Landshark Bar and Grill, Margaritaville on Broadway with 1025 and 1063 The Game. Place your bets with Superbook and enjoy great food and drink specials, plus enter for a chance to win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. 1025, 1063 The Game.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willy Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Every weeknight at 10, join 1029 The Buzz as we throw it back with a Y2K at 10, highlighting some long forgotten about 2000 tunes. Some of these I got off LimeWire. The Y2K at 10, weeknights on 1029 The Buzz.
Happy Thursday to all of you out there. But I need to talk to my man. Listen, talk to you about Cool Springs MD. Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his wife Daphne, along with that experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life. Cool Springs MD services have already helped many men of Nashville, which includes me, Brentwood, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee, with improving their immune systems, cognitive functions, energy levels, and more. They are there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. So, there's no better time now to achieve a healthy lifestyle, men. What are you waiting for? Get Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number, 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving. With new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping with new informed delivery features, and new electric vehicles for a cleaner, brighter future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/moving forward.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
How much you wanted to be patient? Why was it important to you to get that deal done before Super Bulldog week?
No, it wasn't. I wouldn't say before Super Bulldog weekend. I'm sure that's a Paul question for he told you ask that, something like that. But nah, man, my goal was to get it done when the right time, when both sides came to agreement. Like I said, we came to agreement. I was on a phone call with my team, and we came to agreement, and it just so happened to be before we, Mississippi State spring game this weekend. So, I'm sure them fans would be crazy. They'd be excited, for the news. I already been getting a lot on social media already, but like I said, I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful. I'm excited to see what the future brings for this organization myself.
There you go. That was Jeffrey Simmons in his press conference yesterday. And I've said it before. I'll say it again. Good for Jeffrey Simmons.
Absolutely.
I mean, he got emotional yesterday talking about his family, his mom, the way that he grew up. And he deserves it. Good for him. That was really, honestly, my biggest takeaway from Jeffrey Simmons yesterday. And when he said he got his ankle cleaned up in the offseason, which the idea of cleaning up your ankle really kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. And the tightrope surgery gives me the heebie-jeebies. But overall, just good for Jeff.
Yeah, it is good for Jeff. He's been rewarded for, his play. He's done his part. as far as the things on the field and off the field. And it was time for the Titans to do their part in rewarding Jeffrey Simmons for his play thus far, knowing that once we give him this contract, we believe, because when you give somebody that type of money, you believe that their production will continue. You believe the person that they are will continue and even get better on and off the field. So Jeff did his part, and the Titans came back and they did their part at signing him. So, but again, I like what he said. This is when it really starts, because it's okay. It's great to get the money and do what you need to do to get the money, but we've also seen, and I've seen it a lot, where guys get the money and all of a sudden their play declines, and
Yeah.
Jeff doesn't seem like that type of guy. And he said, listen, the real work starts now, and he's right, because there's going to be a lot of pressure, but there's going to be a lot of, expectations of him. You thought the expectations were high because he was a first-round pick. When they give you that much money, the expectations doubles because they expect you to play even better than you did prior to getting the money.
You know what's interesting about that, though? I think the best players, the best competitors, it never changes. Whether they're fighting for that next contract, just signed the new lucrative contract, it makes no difference to them because they're driven by just that fire, right? They want to win. They want to win for their team. They want to win for their city. They want to win for their family. That's the engine that it's hard to teach. But because we all know that there are other guys that it is a little different. It does change a little bit.
Yeah.
Where you're playing, the expectations. Like if you're the overachieving guy that makes the league minimum, you're the hero. And then if you're the high overpaid guy that is not meeting expectations, it affects that guy's play. Like you've seen that happen many times. But the best, it really it does not matter. They always have that edge. And I feel like Jeffrey Simmons is that guy. I feel like you're never going to question his motor, his motivation, his will to win.
I think some guys, and players know other players. It's just the way it is. Some guys you're in the locker room with, and you sit back and you're just observing, and you're like, man, I hope they don't give him any money, because if they give him any money, it's not going to be good. And then some players you look at and it's like, he deserves more money, because you know who he is as a player. When people would ask me, well, when you signed your contract, what did you do? After signing your contract, your second contract, I said, no, I went home. I went back to the kids and a wife, and we just enjoyed the day. Why? Because like Jeffrey Simmons, I knew the work started now. The real work starts now. Because the last thing you want to do is sign this contract and then flop and have to hear this for the next year or two. They shouldn't have gave you the contract. All this other negative stuff that you're hearing. So with Jeff, I'm pretty sure it's the same with him. You go home, spend it with your family, and you're not necessarily thinking about the money. You're thinking about, how can I prove to them I deserved this money? I need to work even harder now to make sure that they don't come back or no one's out there whispering about, oh, he really didn't deserve that. Or even players, because that's the last thing you want to do too. You don't want to sign a huge contract, walking in the locker room after a year, and players are like, man,
he got paid and he got complacent.
And look at him now. Like, goodness. And it happens. In locker rooms, it happens. And you don't want to be that guy.
And I do think, too, the term is very telling about what his motivation is. Because Paul Duracell, in that clip that we played last segment, he said, we could have gotten a 5-year deal. We could have gotten a 5-year extension. Because technically this is a 5-year deal if you want to tack on the 5th-year option. But they could have gotten an additional year on the extension, is what his agent said. But they didn't want that. They wanted long-term and short-term security, where at the end of this deal, Jeffrey Simmons can go back to the Titans and get an even bigger deal, which means that he's looking 5 years into the future. He's not looking at, woo, I got $66 million in the bank now, like I'm good. He's looking at it like this is the next step, And now I'm going to set myself up for even more in that next deal. And not that it's just money driven, but I think that's kind of the mindset of I'm going to be even better in these next 5 years. And I can get an even better deal in the next 5 years and provide for my family even more in the next 5 years. And Jeffrey Simmons, I think with the fire that he plays with, he doesn't seem to be that kind of guy that can just kick his feet up and say, okay, I'm good. I'm taken care of.
Nah, I don't think he can. But it's a 3-tier motivation here, and he said 2 of them. The money is the driving force. Listen, a lot of guys play this game because we enjoy it and we love it. Some guys play this game for what it can do for you, not necessarily what you can do for the game. And when I mean what it can do for you, meaning the notoriety, the money and everything else. Some guys do it because what can I do for this game? What legacy can I live in this game? And that will afford me the money, if I play well.
Right.
So it is always a 3-tier thing. It's money security first, because you don't want to beat your body up and not have any, financial security.
This is a job after all.
It's a job after all, just like any other job. You want to have security for your family. So 1 is the money security, but then 2, Jeff said it. Listen, I want to win a Super Bowl and have a yellow jacket. First I want to win that Super Bowl, and then what comes with that Super Bowl, my play, is that yellow jacket.
Legacy.
A gold jacket, excuse me, that legacy that you leave. So it's, I got my money. That's what I wanted. I got it. I played. I got it. Now, in the midst of all of this, even before the money, I want that Super Bowl. So that's even more of a driving force. And then I want that gold jacket. So it's a 3-tier want. The money, the championship, and then the gold jacket. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not. Nothing wrong with that. Let's get some of your thoughts on it. 615-737-1025. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe texts in and says, with the brutal nature of the sport of football, not getting the max amount of guaranteed money is crazy. Your career could literally end on any play. I don't disagree.
No, I don't
in the
disagree.
Slightest. And that's something that I've heard from you so many times, Chris Sanders, former players. That's what you always reiterate. That's what you look for is signing bonuses, guaranteed money that is on the table for sure. While to Paul DeRussell's point, while the AAV looks nice, while the big cushy deal may look nice on the surface, let's dissect it a little bit and really see what's underneath. Because what's underneath might not look as pretty as it looks on the surface. Whereas as the guaranteed money's what is going into your bank account, what you have secured, what you've earned. That's the most important thing, the guaranteed money. Another texter texts in the text line says, I've never even worried about Jeffrey Simmons not getting paid or not getting motivated after getting paid. I think that kind of speaks to his character.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have really come to enjoy my conversations with this guy over the years because he's a really sharp, insightful guy. He's had a lot of issues, but remember when Albert Haynesworth was a dominant player for the Titans, they were concerned about what would happen if he then made the huge money. And therefore, it was a rough negotiation in the years leading up. They franchised him. They were hesitant to really put the money down. And then sure enough, when he became a free agent, he got enormous money. And it immediately went south. He was never quite the same player. But I just think there are certain guys that you feel good about. Look, it could like the texter just said. Your career can change on one play.
Yeah.
And there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Unfortunately, we saw that on full display this past season.
Yeah, but
in that Bills-Bengals game.
But when you invest in a guy, when you believe in a guy 100%, and you know that this guy is going to give you everything he's got, you feel much better about making a huge investment in like that. I just don't think they ever had that same level with Haynesworth, who was just as dominant in his heyday. I mean, he was incredible, especially for the last 2 years that he was with the Titans. He was a game changer.
He might have been, and we can argue this up and down, but he might have been the most dominant force the Tennessee Titans have ever had on the defense, period. And they've had some
for that period of time.
For that period of time.
Maybe not for 5-6 years, but for when he put it all together.
Yeah, he was the most dominant player that the Titans ever had on that side of the ball.
That's
for that two-year period. And Jeffrey Simmons is sort of in the same line of dominant defensive linemen that the Titans have either brought in via free agency, Kevin Carter, Vanden Bosch, or they've drafted Albert Haynesworth and now Jeffrey Simmons. And we go down the line, Keith Bullock, but I'm just saying defensive linemen, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, when you can say that he's the most dominant force of that group, that's saying something.
Yeah.
A whole lot of dominant forces in that group. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. And hey, do not miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on 1025 and 1063 The Game. Join Jared Stillman, D-Mase, and Chris Sanders as they broadcast live from Twin Peaks in Cool Springs, home of 29-degree beer, on Thursday, April 27th.
Hi, I'm Yusuf Saros. And this is Smashville.
Now here's a try off to the side. What a stop made by UC Saros there.
Unreal. You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture, eat strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
You want a mower that delivers a quality cut and an exceptional ride. You need the Kubota Z200 series with the new K-Ride comfort system, designed to give you everything you need to glide your way to a perfectly manicured lawn. Visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Visit Coleman Tractor Company, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House.
Genesis Diamond's spectacular spring store-wide sale is coming April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. 3 incredible days of store-wide savings. Up to 35% off engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, wedding bands, plus special financing. Even Genesis GIA-certified diamonds are marked down. Lab-grown diamonds, too. Plus, top jewelry designers are flying in with all new amazing designs. You can't miss this annual event. Save up to $10,000 on some items. It's April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd only. And only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Nashville's best deal of the week is Joyland in East Nashville. Joyland is a fun new concept by celebrity chef Sean Brock, inspired by his love for cheeseburgers, shakes, buttermilk biscuits, fries, and fried chicken. Get half off a $30 gift card at theGameNashville.com/deals and enjoy the best burger in town. Find some joy today and eat Joyland for half off with Nashville's best deal of the week. That's theGameNashville.com/deals.
There's never a good time for your furnace to go out, especially in the winter, but it's always a good time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
The Game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Be a part of the conversation. Call or text the Game at 615-737-1025.
April was a busy hiring month for Cromwell Media, the owner of this radio station. We're saluting 3 teammates for 8 years of service. Cliff McCardle, our promotions director, and Jared Stillman and Ian Safar on 1025, 1063 The Game. Janet Gers in our business office passes the 6-year mark. And Junnie Riddle in promotions and Lance Mackey in sales are celebrating 2 years with us. These folks are making a difference every day. Come join our amazing team. Send us your resume at together@cromwellmedia.com. That's together@cromwellmedia.com.
94.9 The Fan is your home for Hit City.
Your Nashville Sounds continue their homestand tonight against the Norfolk Tides.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Sounds win.
Pre-game at 6:20.
On your home of Nashville Sounds baseball, 94.9 The Fan and the Fan app.
Hey Nashville, this is Dan Lebitard. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
There's nothing new to report. It was an erroneous report that came out. I've spoken to Todd, Derek's representative, and, we're in a good place. So it's nothing new to report from there. I know Derek trains like crazy in the location where he trains. I know the location. I don't want to put it out there, but Derek is going to be Derek. He's going to take his time away and do what he has to do to make sure that he's ready to go. So I feel we're in a good place.
There you go. That was Rand Carthon at the owners' meetings. He was asked about Derrick Henry. He said nothing to report. We feel good about Derrick Henry. We feel good about where he is. And, of course, that was a response to some of the reports coming out that the Titans were, quote-unquote, shopping Derrick Henry that sent this entire city into an absolute shock storm, and everyone was panicking and freaking out. And so I thought, we're kind of past that at this point. I thought, Rand Carthon addressed it. While it's still something that could possibly be on the table, I don't think it's anything that at least the three of us look at as being a serious possibility or if something that should be, 1A on our radar. But it came up yet again. So I've seen a few reports coming out there. I don't want to use the word report, more so just response or articles coming out about the Titans trading Derrick Henry to the Dallas Cowboys. This has been something I've seen several articles about it, several conversations on Twitter. And this is one that I see coming out from Pro Football Network. Headline is Derrick Henry trade rumors. Could Titans running back fit with the Dallas Cowboys? Now, this article says that the Titans will be willing to trade Derrick Henry to the Cowboys and references an article put out by Bill Barnwell that says Bill Barnwell said that this could potentially happen. And I thought, well, that's weird. I don't remember Bill Barnwell ever saying that. And this is from a few weeks ago. So the link to the article pops up. So I clicked on the article, and I've read it before, and when I read it, nothing really stood out to me. I said, okay, let's read it again then. Maybe I missed something. Sentence is, if it's not Ezekiel Elliott, the Cowboys could look toward a market that still includes Leonard Fournette, Latavius Murray, and Kareem Hunt unsigned. There's also a chance expensive veterans such as Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook could be released after the draft.
I mean, do I expect Derrick Henry to be released? No. You can't release a guy after coming off a 1,500-yard season just because you probably don't want to pay him the money that you owe him this upcoming season. Now, if he was coming off of 700 yards, 800 yards, playing just about all games, then yes, I can see that happening, a release.
Right.
But after what Derrick Henry did, he still, from a yardage standpoint, he still was second in the NFL in rushing. How can you just say, you know what, because we don't want to pay him, we're just going to release him? Hell no, you're not releasing him.
No.
Now, you may trade him to Dallas, and that's not out of the realm of possibility of trading him to Dallas. I don't see it happening.
Right.
But he would be a good fit in Dallas. Why? Because it takes all the pressure off of Dak Prescott to win you football games. And now you become the number one team in the NFC because now you have a legitimate freight train behind Dak Prescott.
It sounds good, but remember, his contract is structured. Remember, they renegotiated last year, so they gave him the raise. Remember that whole quote, everybody would love a raise. Remember Derrick Henry said that?
Who wouldn't want
a raise? Well, they gave him a raise.
Yes.
But what does that do? It kicks the can down the road, and now that cap figure is really high. It's a cap figure that he's never played under. He's never played for a cap figure that high. So how much trade value is that? Why would you trade for that contract? That's why it gets talked about the release. I don't think it'll come to that. But it is a lingering issue. Like we were saying yesterday, now that they got the Jeffrey Simmons things done, the preview of coming attractions after the draft, the contracts of Tannehill, Byard, and Henry. I think if you're a betting man, that they're going to have to address at least one of them. I don't think they can sit there and have all of them at those exact numbers. And we know they've already started to work on the Byard thing. It hasn't gone anywhere, but they've at least made the phone call. I don't know if they've done that yet with Henry, but I just don't know if you can play at that number again But then do you do it again? Do you kick the can down the road again? Eventually, it comes to it, and that's why Eddie George was eventually released and signed with, guess who? The Cowboys, right?
Yeah. But
now,
Eddie,
his career had declined more, for sure. But you never wanted to, like there was a time, like you would never release Eddie George, would you? But they did. It gets to that. It's like you can't rule it out that someday they would have to release Derrick Henry. I hope it doesn't happen, and I hope it doesn't happen this year, but it comes to a head sometimes.
Well, yeah, and, the difference is, Eddie had been dealing with a turf toe and some other injuries, and it tremendously affected his play. Had he not had the toe injury, I think he would have stayed here and retired as playing a final year and then retiring as a Titan. But because of the injuries, they sort of wanted to move away from that. But I'm not going to say it's out of the realm of possibility because of this. If Jerry Jones feel you can help his team win a Super Bowl, he would do whatever it takes to get you. Derrick Henry is coming off a 1,500-yard season, averaging over 4 yards a carry. His touchdowns were in the double digits. He caught the football a little bit better. If there was a trading partner, I wouldn't put it past the Dallas Cowboys to go get him. They didn't get Odell Beckham because of his injury. Not because Jerry Jones probably didn't want him. He probably wanted him because he knew it could help him. But he couldn't get past the injury. Best believe if he has an opportunity to get Derrick Henry, even under that contract, he will. Why? Because Derrick Henry can help him win a Super Bowl. It's been damn near 20 years, if not 20 years, since they won a championship.
But do they have the cap space to bring on a $16 million cap hit? Or, they would figure it out. But what does Jerry Jones always do? He puts himself behind the 8 ball because he reworks all these contracts and gets a lot of dead money. He should care because they haven't won anything.
He want to win.
He hasn't handled the cap very well over the years.
They are one restructured contract away from winning a Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
They have been for 25 years.
You better not tell Cowboys fans that he's not. They're going to win a championship, okay? Chase is probably jumping up and down like, yes, we want Henry, but don't leave Tennessee, please.
But I also
they are the classic that Jared, that the salary cap is fake. They are the classic reason why it's not, because they put themselves in a bind all the time because of all the superstars they bring in. They rework the contract. They play all the dead. We'll give them the bonus here. We'll worry about it later. And then later comes and, oh man, what do we do now? Well, we got to restructure this. We got to restructure. And they have a team that doesn't have any depth.
And they hire pretty bad coaches.
Yeah,
that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Although Mike McCarthy didn't have the worst season in the world this past season, I will give Mike McCarthy credit that.
Well, he threw the OC under the bus.
Yeah, sure.
He threw the OC under the bus, and it shouldn't have been an OC fault because I don't think it was. But
I think Jerry just gets in his own way sometimes. Yeah. But back to this Pro Football Network article, this was another thing that just like birches in a bunch a little bit. It says Ryan Tannehill is not Tennessee's long-term answer at quarterback.
Duh.
Correct. The wide receiver situation leaves much to be desired. Correct. And the engine of their offense, the king himself, correct, is nearing the end. According to who? Yeah. According to who? History? Because, yes, if you would say that once you turn 30 years old, history would say that running backs start to take, a little bit of a decline, fine. Derrick Henry was the second leading rusher in the National Football League this past year. Derrick Henry ran for 1,500 yards. Now, if you watch some of Derrick Henry, maybe you could see, okay, he's getting taken from behind a little bit more. Maybe those runs that could have popped off for 20, 25, 30 yards were more 10, 15-yard runs from Derrick Henry. That's fine. We can totally have that conversation. But to say that he's nearing the end, I don't think is a fair evaluation. And if there was a running back that was nearing the end, why would the Cowboys, or any team for that matter, be interested in trading for them?
Well, the shiny new toy is a Jerry Jones thing. There's no question about it.
Totally.
But nearing the end, that's a little bit harsh. The argument has to come down to what is his value based on what you're paying him. Like if you could have Derrick Henry, if you could just rip up the contract, or let's say you could sign him to a new deal. He's a free agent. If you got him at the right price, I think he would be a fantastic addition to a team. But it's just like, I think what you're really asking is Derrick Henry still the premier running back in the league? Is he quite what he was 2 years ago, 3 years ago? The answer is no, but that doesn't mean he's nearing the end, right? But he's still making huge amounts of money in terms of the cap.
Yes.
That's the dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
And at what point is it more valuable, or could you get more production or bang for your buck with a different formula of a committee of running backs making a lot less money? That's where the balance has to come.
And is their impact going to equal what Derrick Henry gives you?
Well, and it's not even like we talk about every year. It's not just what he gives you on the field.
It's off the field
it's
and in the
off
locker
the
room.
field. Yeah. He's the heartbeat of your team. And there's still that respect to the defense. Like when he's lined up back there, the defense has to account for it.
You can't ignore Derrick Henry. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get back into your phones on that. Plus, it's a little bit of a more depressing edition of Willy's playoff watch, but there are playoffs nonetheless, so we will get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The crowd is standing on its feet. It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
Join 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament benefiting Souls for Souls, June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs.
Be the ball.
Support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at theGameNashville.com/golf.
Family Leisure invites you to vacation at home with a new spa, pool, patio furniture, or wood play gym this summer.
I really want a spa.
40 spas on display from Artesian, Best Spas, and American Select.
Prices starting as low as $29.99.
Family Leisure has over 100 sets of patio furniture with free delivery.
That sounds good to me, too.
We should really look at the wood play gyms for the kids. Family Leisure has the Diamond Point swing set on sale at only $24.99 installed. Family Leisure's vacation at home sale in Franklin and Antioch.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. Being arrested doesn't have to be the worst day of your life. Being served with custody paperwork doesn't have to be the worst day of your life. It may feel that way, but if you have Amanda J. Gentry representing you, you can feel confident that you're going to have the best quality representation in all of Middle Tennessee. Amanda J. Gentry goes wherever justice demands. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
312 Pizza Company is your spot for the best Chicago-style eats right here in Nashville. From thin crust pizza to deep dish pizza to Italian beef sandwiches and Chicago dogs. Doesn't get much better than that. Until now. 312 Pizza Company is now serving up their award-winning pizza by the slice. All day, every day. Don't have time to wait for a full pie? No problem. Get a slice instead. Order a full pie but want a little more? Add another slice. Do it. Honestly, just go get a slice. 312 Pizza Company. Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria. Go get a slice.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank members. FDIC terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea with smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/offer. That's ramp.com/offer to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/offer.
The NBA playoffs are here, folks, and you can turn crossovers into cash with FanDuel Sportsbook. Joe Rex here to let you know. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/Joe102. Right now, place $5 bet. You get an instant $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. A lot going on with the playoffs. Of course, it's going to be an exciting playoffs. Again, I'm big on the Dubs. I think Andrew Wiggins coming back. It's going to be really interesting for the Golden State Warriors. But so many different ways you can go. Just do it on FanDuel. Safe and secure. You get paid instantly. You got a spot for the bets you like and great promotions every day. Easy to use. Big thing with me. No better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com/Joe102. Sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet your first $5. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of the NBA, and you must be 21 or older and present. Tennessee. Bonus issued is no withdrawable bonus sets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789.
They combine hard-hitting journalism.
Titans have actually made a move, finalizing a one-year deal.
Strong-willed opinions.
No, I disagree. No, I totally disagree with that.
And sometimes Rex Road.
The job starts in the morning.
Mornings from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Rebound, score!
Willy's Playoff Watch.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Now on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Now, Willy's Playoff Watch is a whole lot less fun when it is not Willy's Predators Playoff Watch. However, there are Stanley Cup playoffs nonetheless. So an update around the league from Willy D, including a pretty long streak that was just snapped last night.
Yeah, I wish we could play the "You're telling me there's a chance"
So you're
because
telling me there's
no chance.
There
it's not
was
even 1 in a million. Not even 1 in a million.
There used to be a chance.
There was a chance, and
So
the
what you're
Wild,
telling me,
we should be still a little bit angry at the Wild. They could have created
I
a
hate
lot of
the
fun.
Wild.
Tonight could have been a lot of fun.
I hate the Wild.
If they had just won the other night, life goes on. Life goes on. So the chances, we'll switch movies from Dumb and Dumber to Animal House, where Dean Wormer provides the grade point average for Mr. Butarski.
0.0.
Exactly. 0.0.
Double secret probation.
Yes. So they'll have to move forward. And Minnesota is locked in now at the number 3 position in the Central. So they cannot move up or down. So they're going to rest a number of their players tonight. So the message from John Hines, look, let's just take it all the way to the finish line. Let's not change anything. Let's keep playing hard and create and stay with this good feeling that they've built, despite falling a little bit short of the playoffs. Meanwhile, one of the things that we've been saying all along is when they made the decision to sell at the deadline, they gave themselves, all of these assets that will come in handy. They're going to have the draft here in Nashville. They've got 13 picks. It's going to be really exciting. And some of these picks they acquired at the deadline. Other teams doubled down. They added at the trade deadline. And we've seen that not all of them made it, including the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are out. They lost to the Blackhawks the other day. They have made the playoffs every year since 2006 is the last time they missed, so 2007. It's been a heck of a run for them.
Yeah.
They are not in, and they added at the deadline. So they've got a lot of questions to answer. Today is a rough day in Pittsburgh. Last night the Islanders clinched a wild card. Florida has clinched. So all of the teams are spoken for. There's still some seeds that can slide up and down. So tomorrow there is a chance, depending on what happens tonight, that Colorado could be playing for a 1 seed in the Central or the division championship in the Central. And so, they would play Seattle or Winnipeg as opposed to having to play Minnesota. So we'll see what Colorado decides to do tomorrow. It depends on what Dallas does as well. So Dallas and Colorado are competing for the Central. And then in the East, you still have a couple things that could be sorted out here. New Jersey and Carolina are 1 point apart for the 1 seed in the Metro. That's a big thing, too. I think there's a pretty good drop-off. Who would you rather play in the first round? The Rangers, team with 107 points, or one of the wild card teams, the Islanders or the Panthers? There's a big, big difference there. Whether you're wild card 1 or what, if you're the Islanders in Florida, you better, the Islanders have gotten 93 points. Florida has one more game. If they win, and I don't know who's got the tiebreaker, but would you rather play Boston or Carolina?
Give me Carolina.
I mean, that's the thing.
But that's also the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, but
maybe.
But Boston has been so dominant,
Yeah.
right? You mentioned it. Carolina has had a great year. 51 points. It could be New Jersey. Those teams have 51 wins. Great year. Boston has 64 wins. They have 133 points.
That's ridiculous.
So Boston will be a heavy favorite whoever they play, but if you're Florida and you have a chance to win and get a chance to play either Jersey or Carolina, that would be a better matchup, I would think, than the Bruins. The Bruins have got such a loaded team.
I think anyone would be a better matchup than the Bruins at this point.
Yeah, the way the way you talk of it. And then, like anything, I'm looking at these matchups, potential matchups. Styles make fights, and sometimes from the outside looking in, you say, well, maybe they don't want to play that team, that particular team, but then you start to look at some of the analytics that Willy love, and then you start to think, well, from an analytics standpoint, this might be a better matchup for them rather than playing someone else that may have a better record. May have a lesser record than what that particular team has.
Yeah, it is weird. Some of these games that happened at the very end of the season that changed the matchups of the playoffs. Remember last year, Nashville, they got UC Soros hurt in the second to last game, which was just an absolute killer, because they would have played the Flames instead of the Avalanche. There was an enormous difference between those two teams. Even the Flames have a great year. But playing the Avalanche without UC Soros as opposed to playing the Flames with UC Soros, that could have changed the entire script going forward. In 2017, when the Predators went all the way to the Stanley Cup final and lost to the Penguins, it flipped the last day of the season. The Predators had the lead late in Winnipeg, up 2-1. For whatever reason, Winnipeg made a couple of big plays. They score 2 goals, and Nashville slips from the 7th seed to the 8th seed, or wild card 1 to wild card 2. They draw the Blackhawks. It ended up being perfect.
Exactly.
Right? They swept the Blackhawks.
That's pretty good for them.
Worked out great.
For them.
Even though it felt like the world against the Predators in that series.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was a better matchup.
It was absolutely a better matchup. And the Predators, they were like, that's fine. We love playing the Blackhawks. I'll never forget Peter Laviolette. He was like, yeah, we feel like we match up very well with them. And I can't remember who won the other division. I think it might have been Anaheim, if I remember. They would have played Anaheim instead. And eventually they had to beat Anaheim too. But they would have had to hop a plane, go all the way out to Anaheim. So they were sitting there thinking, well, it's not really that different, to be honest with you. So
both good teams.
Certainly history has shown. Yeah.
I remember when we talked to PK a few months ago when it was PK Subban night. He said we looked at that matchup against Chicago. We said we didn't care if anybody else counted us out. We knew we could beat them. We knew we were a better team than them. You mentioned Peter Laviolette. Do you think he still will be the coach in Washington come next year?
Peter Laviolette, what is it? The Rolling Stone, right? He is a winner. What's the line by is it the Temptations that sing Papa was a Rolling Stone? Wherever he laid his hat, it was home. He's the great 5 and dive, right? He goes 4 or 5 years. He wins a ton of games and then goes to another place for 4 or 5 years and wins a ton of games. He had his run through here. If history repeats, it probably won't be long. I don't know. They're going to miss the playoffs. Right. It's so weird. Like this is the first year since 2006 that no Crosby, no Ovechkin in the playoffs.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So that has been a long time.
2006.
That's a long time.
I was in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So Washington definitely, this is another team. Older team. Ovechkin's not getting any younger. Some of the other guys, TJ Oshie, Nick Backstrom, guys that were right there with Barry Trotz when they won the whole thing.
Right.
5 years ago. It catches up after a while. So they have tough decisions, and they might want to break it down. But as we said before, one of the toughest things to do when you have those guaranteed contracts, we had these discussions last hour about the nuances of signing a new contract. How much is guaranteed, how much is not. Every dollar is guaranteed in the NHL, but that makes it tough to move, especially we know the salary cap isn't going up. That's why, as you sit here, if you're not in the dance, at least if you're the Predators, you feel good about the flexibility that you created. You move some salary cap space. You have a lot of draft capital. Some of these other guys do not. Like, they're up against the cap. They're stuck with a lot of same players next year. They have some of the same question marks, and they didn't make it this year.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Elliot Friedman, the 32 Thoughts podcast, and Sportsnet will join us coming up next. And Nashville's best deal of the week is Joyland in East Nashville. Get half off a $30 gift card at theGameNashville.com/deals and enjoy the best burger in town. Find some joy today and eat Joyland for half off with Nashville's best deal of the week at GameNashville.com. 1025-1063 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willy Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity lines, car loan. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
This is Jim Mitchell at Mr. Transmission in Madison. Many of you care about a cure for cystic fibrosis. I care a lot and support the Saturday, May 6th golf tournament at Hendersonville's beautiful Country Hill Golf Course. It's the CureForOurFriends.org 9th annual golf tournament for cystic fibrosis. Tee off at 7:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. on May the 6th. Lots of prizes and sports stars, lunch and dinner provided for each tee time. Sign up at CureForOurFriends.org. That's CureForOurFriends.org.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Have you noticed that most ice creams now come in smaller cartons? Not Bluebell. We're still making a full half-gallon and a full pint of tasty goodness. Bluebell wouldn't have it any other way.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at Walgreens and Value Plus in Bon Aqua.
Genesis Diamond's spectacular spring store-wide sale is coming. April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. 3 incredible days of store-wide savings. Up to 35% off engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, wedding bands, plus special financing. Even Genesis GIA-certified diamonds are marked down. Lab-grown diamonds, too. Plus, top jewelry designers are flying in with all new amazing designs. You can't miss this annual event. Save up to $10,000 on some items. It's April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd only. And only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Now, your Game Center update.
This is Nick Keyser. 2 more games to play in Nashville this season as the Predators are hosting the Minnesota Wild tonight. Nashville isn't part of the Stanley Cup playoffs, but defenseman Ryan McDonough knows what this team should play for through Friday.
I think if there's one thing we should hang our hat on is to put forth a good effort for him, because he's gave us every chance every night to win and try to make this push here to make the playoffs. So I think that's what our focus will be, is playing hard for our goalies. Both of them have been unbelievable.
And Jeffrey Simmons officially put ink to his new contract yesterday. Simmons' deal comes in at 4 years for $94 million, with $66 million guaranteed. And the Nashville Sounds are 2-0 so far against the Norfolk Tide after an 8-6 win last night. They'll be back in action on 94.9 The Fan starting at 6:35 p.m. on Throwback Night. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A gun performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead. The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personality of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena ahead of the Predators matchup with the Minnesota Wild. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. All of your pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And joining us now is Elliot Friedman, Sportsnet, and the 32 Thoughts podcast. Elliot, always appreciate our weekly check-ins. So the Predators eliminated from playoff contention. Sad, but a lot scarier to think about where this team could have been if not for UC Saros. Do you think UC Saros has done enough this year to be in contention to be a Vezina finalist?
Absolutely. Like, Carolyn, that's the easiest question that you're ever going to ask me. Like, you have to understand that when Nick calls me, I start sweating because I know what's coming. But I
decided to lay off the heat this week.
That's good. Good. You got me looking with the changeup because I was expecting the fastball. No, Carolyn, honestly, that's the easiest question you're ever going to ask me. Saros absolutely deserves Vezina consideration. To me, it wouldn't surprise me if he got some of the occasional Hart Trophy vote too. I think he's had that kind of an impact on your team this season. One of the things people are talking about is how does everybody feel about the Predators after this year? I'm sure there's a much better feeling now because of just the way that some of those young kids have played. And one of the reasons that those young kids have played well is that they know if they make a mistake, there's a chance it's not going to end up in their own net because the guy at the other end is so good. And I think that it's not a small consideration when you talk about the maturation and the confidence gained by your own players. So I think anybody who doesn't include Saros in the Vezina Trophy conversation is crazy.
Elliot, I'm curious. How much do you think he played 2 great games on a big stage with a huge Canadian audience, right, with Winnipeg and Calgary? And even though the GMs are the voters and not the writers, I just wonder what kind of impression his performances against the Jets and the Flames might have on the way this thing goes, the perception, the narrative, all of that stuff.
I think it matters a little bit. I don't think there's any question about that. I think any time you have good games and places where people are watching, it helps and people notice. But the thing is, I think Saros is the kind of guy now. I think people know who he is. It's like Yossi, right? Everybody knows who Roman Yossi is, and I think Saros is the same way. Everybody just looks at him and they're like, oh, okay, well, he's really good. So does it help? Yes. But I think in his case, the acceptance and the understanding of how good he is already there.
Now, Elliot, the Predators made a lot of moves, just like a lot of other teams during the trade deadline. But they have some questions entering the offseason, in particular with Johansson and Duchesne. Do you expect them to be one or both? To be not a part of this team next year, considering what happened this year? Or do you expect, because of the contract and everything else, that they will be a part of this team? And the only reason I'm asking is because in their injuries, we've seen other young guys play a bigger role, and they have come in and did what the Predators have asked them to do.
I think the thing is, honestly, Derek, I really felt like when David Poile was the GM there, it was baked into the DNA that anybody who trades Shea Weber, can do anything. You guys know how much Shea Weber meant to Nashville, and David Poyle made what he thought was the right hockey deal for his team. And we don't know what kind of general manager Barry Trotz is going to be, but I kind of think that he knew everything that was going down at the deadline and didn't stand in the way of it. So what I look at, Derek, with your team here is, if they decide something makes sense for them and they decide that the price that they have to pay to do it makes sense for them, they're going to do it. Now, I think the most interesting thing that you hit on there is, what are the rules going to be next season? Like, you take a look at, since the trade deadline, who are your top scorers? Well, it's guys like Novak, Tomasino, Evangelista, like all of these guys, Parsonen. They've done, even, Kiefer Sherwood's a guy who's, I think, was in the top 6 when I checked last Saturday. So, these are all players who've earned a bit of a spot. So to me, Derek, the bigger question is, when you set the lineup next year on your whiteboard, either in Barry Trotz's office or John Hines' office, what does it look like? Who's where? Like, when Forsberg is healthy, we know he's getting his spot. When Yossi is healthy, we know he's getting his spot. But what about some of the other spots? Like, where do you pencil, if everybody's healthy, where's Novak next year in your roster? Where's Evangelista? Where's Tomasino? Where are all these guys we just talked about? And to me, that's the question. When you put everybody together, where does everybody fit? And is everyone going to be okay with that? And the contracts are a big deal. And yes, you might have to, they're going to have to look and say, okay, if we want to move one of these guys, what price are we going to have to pay to do it? I think it's baked into the Nashville Predators pie, Derek, that they're not afraid to do something big or emotional if they feel it's right for them.
Elliot Friedman is with us, 32 Thoughts Podcast and Sportsnet. Elliot, you hit on it. Some of the difficult decisions or difficult evaluations that Barry Trotz has as he's incoming as the Predators general manager. Running back with the young guys, Duchesne and Johansson, to D-Mace's point. What do they do with John Hines next season? He's got a lot of difficult questions that he's going to have to answer. Just from your perspective, what do you think should be Barry Trotz's first order of business once he takes over full-time as general manager in July?
Well, I think probably, first of all, even though he doesn't officially take over until July, Caroline, I think in a lot of ways he's going to be making a lot of these decisions. I don't think David Poyle is the kind of guy who's going to sit there and say, well, you're not in charge officially until July 1st, so you can't make the calls yet. No, I think Barry Trotz is very involved. I don't think Poyle would operate any other way. So I think he's got to say, I think because of the clock, I think the first thing is probably, what's the decision on the head coach? And I think that's probably the number one thing. And I'm sure when the season's over and Trotz meets the media, I think that's what you guys are going to ask him. And like I told you, I think the way this year is finished and the way some of those young players have played, it absolutely helps Hines' case. But then what they're going to do is they're going to start to determine the market. They're going to sit down. They're going to look at their roster. They're going to say, this is where we think everybody fits. And what they're going to do is they're going to go out there and they're going to say, okay, if we don't think this player is happy or we don't want this player to be here, they're going to start testing the market on these players. If we want to do this, what are our options? And, the tough thing, Carolyn, is it doesn't look like the cap is going to go up much this year, probably only about $1 million. We may be surprised, but it seems to be teetering the other way. So it's going to be that much harder for the Predators to find partners to do some of this stuff.
Elliot Friedman is with us. Elliot, I got one more for you on the Vezina part of it, because as I'm sure you've been made aware, we've done it on our broadcast. We've tried to look beyond, just to try to put in perspective the heat and the margin for error that UC Saros faces as compared to some of the other candidates. Jake Ottinger, some of the other guys. And obviously a guy like Connor Hellebuck, he has put the team on his back many times as well. But I'm curious, just from you can't get in the mind of every general manager, but I've always been curious how deep a general manager will get into deciding who he's voting for, because he's got plenty of other things on his plate besides who to vote for the Vezina, right? When when I'm voting for the Jack Adams or you're voting for the Norris, it's kind of our job, right? We're not doing other things at the time, not nearly what a general manager is doing. So I'm curious how deep they will look at some of the numbers that go beyond the surface of just goals against average, wins, the traditional stats.
I think I think it's like most things, Willie. I think some take it very, very seriously and would get insulted if you suggested to them they didn't. As a matter of fact, I once made a crack like that, and one GM almost separated my head from the rest of my body. And so some of them, I think, do take it very seriously. I think some of them, like I know when I'm voting for the awards, I'll ask some of the other people, like, what are you thinking? Like ultimately, I'll make my decision, but I want to listen. I think some of these guys, they do ask around. They say, what are you thinking? Like, just give me an idea of this guy you face. I think for the most part, they take it pretty seriously. And I will say this. I think that it was about, I want to say it was one of the years, I think Chicago won a cup. I remember there was some voting done, and it involved the late Ray Emery. He had an unbelievable record, but he wasn't Chicago's starter, and he got a Vezina vote. And I remember the guys told me that among the GMs, the bleep hit the fan on that one because there was like an accusation that someone voted for Emery because it would help their goaltender. And I heard after that, look, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. People say maybe you guys shouldn't have the vote, and ultimately people can decide what they want to do. But I remember a couple of GMs told me that after that one, there came a lot of talk that, we have to take this very seriously, and I think the vast majority of them do.
All right, leave us with this. We were just reminiscing the other day, or just right before you came on, actually, about the 2017 run and how these last matchups can change who plays who. It's a meaningless game for some, but it could change the seeds and the matchups. Nashville got matched up with Chicago in 2017 because they lost the last game against the Jets. It changed late, and obviously it worked out really well. And so Jonathan Toews, the long nemesis of the Predators, right? He was always that guy, though. He wasn't the villain. He was one of those guys you respected, but you couldn't stand him because he's so good. So it's a big night for him tonight in Chicago. But tell us what's going on there. Like, does he want to play beyond this year?
I think he does. I do think he does. I think there's two issues there, Willie. I think number one is where. I think there are certain places he would probably prefer to go. And the second, I think, is just his health. Like, he's been through a lot. He's battled, I guess it's kind of an autoimmune issue. I think long COVID. He's had some real battles with that. Like, I know when he was out of the lineup this year due to illness, like, it really knocked his body, like, out of hockey shape, and it was a real battle to get back in. And so I think between, what's available for him and how healthy, like, the base answer to your question is yes. I think he'd like to play again, really. I just think it comes down to where and how healthy he is. Because, if it's going to be this much of a battle, and like a lot of these players, when they reach that level, there's a certain place they don't want to drop from. They believe, like, no, if I'm Jonathan Toews, I'm going to try to play like Jonathan Toews. And if that's not possible, I think there's less of a chance that he would play.
So under the circumstances, you think that was the right thing for the Blackhawks to do? I mean, they want to send him off the right way.
Well, I just think that I think it was the right thing to do in terms of if the fans want to get to the game tonight and say goodbye, yes, I think you give them that opportunity. Like, the one thing is, I think this was decided a long time ago. Like, I think Kane wanted to extend, and it was kind of made clear to him that wasn't going to happen. And maybe Toews thought that there would be a chance for it to change. And ultimately in Seattle the other day, they said, no, it's not changing. But I think in the eyes of the Blackhawks, this has been the case for some time, that they've indicated that it was time to start fresh.
Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet. Always enjoyed chatting with you, Elliot. I promise next week I will come in a little bit more hot.
You know what? It's like stepping into the box against Nolan Ryan, Carolyn. Like I know I better be ready on that back foot to duck. So
Got to keep you on your toes.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. You absolutely do.
All right. Thank you, Elliot. We'll chat with you next week. We asked Elliot a few questions from Barry Trotz's point of view. Barry Trotz will be on Stillman & Company at 5:30 today, so I know Jared will have a few questions for Barry Trotz about along the same lines of some of the things we asked Elliot. So Barry Trotz at 5:30 on Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. And coming up next, we will get into some of your thoughts. We have some spicy takes on the text line, so we'll get into those coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah! Woo!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Your ankles, feet, and knees help you walk, run, jump, and climb. Because of the stress placed on these joints, arthritis may occur, and lower limb injuries are common injuries treated by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. Their specially trained orthopedics can treat your pain non-surgically with non-inflammatory medications to reduce swelling and orthotics that support the pads, arch, or ankle joint. Your doctor may recommend a brace, custom shoes, or physical therapy as part of your treatment. Visit tn.houston.com to book an appointment for a physician to discuss your lifestyle, your goals, and determine the best treatment to fit your needs.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Hi, this is Warren Moon, 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback and member of the Tennessee Titans Ring of Honor and Pro Football Hall of Fame. On the field, I always wore a helmet and pads to make sure I was protected. Life is no different. That's why I got vaccinated and boosted against COVID-19. Protection keeps you in the game. Talk to your doctor and get the information you need to make an informed choice. Gear up, Tennessee. Protect yourself and your family against COVID-19 today.
For more information, go to nflagearup.org/Tennessee.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/FREE. ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game and on Instagram at 1025 The Game Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah, and like us on Facebook, too. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You guys approach these final 2 games here?
Man, it's difficult. I mean, I don't know if there's really no right way to say it. I mean, I'm certainly still playing with pride, number one. There's some guys having some great seasons, specifically Saros has been unbelievable. And so I think if there's one thing we should hang our hat on is to put forth a good effort for him, because he's gave us every chance every night to win and try to make this push here to make the playoffs. So I think that's what our focus will be, is playing hard for our goalies. Both of them have been unbelievable. So you definitely want to feel good about yourself regardless after putting in an effort.
That was Ryan McDonough on how this team finishes out the rest of the season. The final 2 games, it can kind of feel like a drag. You know, you're not making the playoffs, but we got to finish out the season somehow. It's like your final week of senior year. You're already graduating. You already know you're going to be done. It's just, let's just get through these next few tests, these next few days. So that's kind of the challenge facing the Predators now, is these final 2 games of the season. They know they're out of the playoffs, but they still have Vezina hopes alive for UC Saros. Is that really what this team is playing for? Kind of, you know, their biggest priority with the rest of the season?
I think it is. I
think it should be.
The players are saying it. You know, listen, we want to. You never want to end regardless of what your situation is. And obviously, we know that the Predators, you know, this group of guys did everything they possibly can do on the ice to try to make a playoff berth, and it just didn't happen because, you know, frankly, it was out of their control. They won the games, but they had to wait for other teams to either win or lose. And as a player, you hate to have somebody else. You hate to have your fate in someone else's hands when it comes to that. But it still doesn't mean that you can't go out these last 2 games and play at a high level. And if for nothing else, play for your goalie. Because what he has done, and he said, what he has done, especially since the trade deadline, he's given us an opportunity to win every single game by the way he played. And, you know, you just got to take your hats off to UC because like any other veteran guy, you could have said, man, they're making all these moves. And you talked about it, Willie. They're making all these moves. A veteran guy, you know, possibly have the mind thought of, this team, they ain't going for it. We're not trying to win. So it's you kind of take your foot off the gas pedal.
Let's just,
but
you know,
UC hasn't. It seemed like he played even harder. And guys recognize that in that locker room. So they want to make sure these next 2 games, they go out. If it's not just for themselves, it's for UC to make sure you go out on a winning note.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. And he also, I think, the guys will take pride if he gets rewarded as a Vezina finalist, which I really feel like he should. And the stats count, right? I think the guys know if they just lay down and Minnesota scores 5 or 6 goals, that affects the stats of UC Saros. And that, you know, there's probably some GMs that already have a pretty good idea of who they're voting for, but presumably this would be the last game that Saros will play. They would go with Kevin Lankinen tomorrow, I think, probably if it's back-to-back situation like they normally go with it. And Lankinen's played really well in addition. So I think you feel partially responsible for how your goalie does. And so you want to play well. So you find reasons to compete. And there's still a lot of guys that are going to be playing for the Predators tonight that are, you know, want to make that good last impression. Yeah. They're having the final year meetings. I think they've already met with some of the guys who will probably go straight from here to Milwaukee to try to win a championship for the Admirals and continue their development path. So there's a lot of different reasons, but I think it comes down to, look, you're a pro. When you're a pro, you play hard, right? You do your job.
I think it's a much different perspective here than it is maybe, say, in Pittsburgh, when you have guys who have been in the league for a very long time. They're out of the playoffs. It's a different perspective from a young guy who's saying, okay, I still can make a name for myself. I'm still proving myself in this league versus, all right, I'm Sidney Crosby and I've been in the league for is our phone number. We'll get into your phones next. We haven't gotten enough thoughts from you, so we will get into your calls, your texts, 615-737-1025. Anything is on the table. Jeffrey Simmons, Titans, draft, Predators, all of that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, and hey, tune in for Sounds Baseball tonight at 6:35 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds take on the Norfolk Tides, the AAA affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
When it comes to NFL draft prep, there's no one better than TD. ESPN's Teron Davenport talks to the prospects.
There's 3 deals going at once, and whichever deal goes first sets the floor for the next one.
And brings you the best info on the Titans draft.
If Paris Johnson is the top player there, I think they would take him.
Teron Davenport, Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, and Friday mornings at 8. TD on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome to Smashville, home of the biggest hits in hockey and the loudest parties on Broadway. Join us at Bridgestone Arena Friday, April 14th for the season finale as your Nashville Predators take on the Colorado Avalanche. Arrive early for the Nashville Predators Plaza Party presented by Dr. Pepper starting at 5 p.m. Purchase your tickets today at NashvillePredators.com/tickets. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets. Let's go, Preds!
Harmon Energy is your one-stop petroleum solution across all of Tennessee, offering turnkey petroleum solutions for professionals in major industries, serving trucking fleets, construction companies, industrial plants, and more. Whether a large corporation or owner-operator, Harmon Energy has your diesel fuel, lubricant, DEF, and equipment needs. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman. Visit ParmanEnergy.com for more info. Your Tennessee petroleum solution, providing totally outrageous customer service.
Genesis Diamond's most anticipated event of the year is coming next weekend, April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Huge store-wide savings, plus the unveiling of thousands of new, unique designs from the biggest names in jewelry. All new collections from names like Tacori, Verragio, and more. Rings, earrings, pendants, bands, many never seen before, all specially priced. Save up to 35% store-wide and get zero interest financing. Special pricing on natural and lab-grown diamonds, April 21st through the 23rd. Only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills, and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike 3.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey, it's ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck on Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Now, Willy has a trivia question for everyone. And the first correct answer to Willy's trivia question will win a pair of tickets to see The Used and Pierce the Veil at Municipal Auditorium on May 31st. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Call in with the correct answer to Willy's trivia question.
All right. There's a lot of crossover between the Predators and the Wild. Less so for the Predators now than there was the last time these two teams met. And that was a really, really tight game, a pivotal game in the Predators' regular season when they lost that crazy bounce game at the end where the puck bounced off of Ryan McDonough and then bounced off of Ryan Hartman and then into the net for the game-winning goal in the final seconds. That was a crushing one. But we note all the time, the Wild have a lot of people that used to be involved with the Predators in some form or fashion, including their head coach. So that is going to be the question today. Who is the head coach of the Wild? Because he, once upon a time, was the coach of the Milwaukee Admirals for a long time. And so he coached a lot of the Predators who have come up through the ranks, including the likes of Colton Sissons, Roman Josi, guys like that. So he goes way back with those guys. So call in if you want to win the trivia today and tell us who the coach of the Minnesota Wild is. 615-737-1025. You must call to get the prize.
And the prize is a good one. So the first person with the correct answer to Willy's trivia question will win a pair of tickets to see The Used and Pierce the Veil at Municipal Auditorium on May 31st. Good luck with that, unless we have some thoughts.
Let's go to the phone.
To the phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought. Graham texted into the text line and said, what are your thoughts on the Grizzlies versus Lakers? D-Mase, this might be your wheelhouse.
D-Mase.
Said
Talk to me.
Dylan Brooks being ousted as the villain makes my heart happy. Would love to see them shut down LeBron 4-0.
Oh,
Grizz in 4.
Grizz in 4. I don't know if that's going to happen.
I don't know if it's going to happen either.
I think, were you and I talking, Willie, off air?
Yep.
Yeah. And Dylan Brooks called. He said he wouldn't mind playing LeBron James. Well, Mr. Dylan Brooks, you have gotten your wish. You will play LeBron James in the first round of the NBA playoffs. And I think this series goes 6 games. The problem with Memphis is, other than Jaren Jackson Jr., they don't have size in the middle to stop Anthony Davis. And right now, Anthony Davis is playing at a high level. We all knew if he could stay healthy, he's a dominant player. He's one of the best big men in the game.
Which is sometimes an if.
And yeah, sometimes
if
it's an if.
Stay
exactly.
Healthy.
He's been healthy, and he's been dominant. He's averaging a double-double in the last, I think, 2 or 3 months. So go AD, so go the Los Angeles Lakers. Minus LeBron. LeBron's going to do what he needs to do. But this team advances if AD plays the way he's capable of playing. And he has been playing that way. They don't have an answer for AD. Jaren Jackson gets in too much foul trouble. As good as he is as a big man, he can't stay out of foul trouble. Now, the Lakers don't have an answer for Ja Morant. But that's Ja versus 5 other guys. Mm-hmm. You're going to get something out of Dylan Brooks. Yes, they got a nice group of players, but I think they're just, at this point, too young, still too immature, and they don't have their big men they're going to need to combat AD. You need to be physical with AD. And I don't think because of Jaren Jackson's foul history, him getting in foul trouble very quickly, he can't be that way with AD. So I'm picking the Lakers in 6. AD is going to dominate the series. LeBron's going to do what he needs to do. Ja Morant's going to go off, but they are going to allow Ja Morant to score 30 points. Mm-hmm. It's not letting Dylan Brooks and those other guys get into the game.
And if Ja beats us, then fine.
You beat us, yeah. You beat us. But they're not going to let those other guys contribute to the Memphis Grizzlies winning this series. I believe the Lakers win the first game of the series, and by doing that, now they switch home court advantage, and they win in 6.
I'm really excited to see what the Grizzlies, as they've built this group, they've had a little more playoff success, and now they're sort of in that group of teams that they know they're going to be there, and it's just all the 82 games are just make sure you got a spot, and then from there, that's when you start putting it in gear. Like, do they have championship material? Like, they've been a young team that's been building here. It's been fun to watch, but can they go next level? And what an amazing matchup to take on LeBron and the Lakers right at the start.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, like, what's a more difficult or daunting task than that in the first round of the playoffs?
Well, I mean, the Lakers did a hell of a job at the trade deadline. They went and got D'Angelo Russell. Austin Reeves has been playing tremendous basketball. They didn't get him. That was a draft pick. Dennis Schroeder has been playing well. Vanderbilt, who they got in a trade as well, he's been playing well. So after the trade deadline,
not the school Vanderbilt,
not the school
player
Vanderbilt.
Different Vandy.
He didn't go to Vanderbilt.
Exactly. But
what
they've done after the trade deadline with getting rid of certain players that didn't fit what they were doing and bringing in much younger, better athletic, a better shooting team, because that's what LeBron and AD needed. They needed a better shooting cast around them. LeBron's going to score. AD's going to do his thing, but we need guys that can knock down three-pointers. Here comes D'Angelo Russell, and Austin Reeves has stepped up this year.
NBA insider Derek Mason,
I love
everyone.
I love it. You can ask me whatever you want to ask me about the NBA.
Weston Hermitage Texan says, this might be a hot take. Oh, boy.
Ooh.
When Joe Burrow was in the draft, there wasn't a team that was scared or iffy. You knew that what he was and what he was going to be. There's not a quarterback like that in this year's draft. I feel like the big star quarterback comes next year. I don't know if Bryce Young is even a sure thing. I understand you can't plan on drafting this early next year, but either way, the price is going to be very steep for anybody to ever move up and get that star quarterback. Why not just save as much as you can this year, then splurge next year? There's 3 beast quarterbacks in next year's draft.
Again, we go back to who says you're going to be in a position to draft these guys? And then 2, little hands Burrow, they were talking about his small hands, wasn't they?
They were.
Exactly.
His baby hands.
Exactly. So everybody, whether you are Peyton Manning or Joe Burrow, everybody doesn't go, no one goes into the draft like there's nothing wrong with that player. Even the most surefire player, there's still someone saying, well, what about this? Well, what about this? There's always going to be a guy like that. So,
and also, if we're going to bring up the Joe Burrow example, this time of the year before Joe Burrow got drafted, so this would have been April 2019. I remember having conversations with people and saying, I just don't think Joe Burrow's the guy. Like, he's fine. You know, he'll get us to an 8, 9, 10 win season, but like that's really going to be it. And then he became Joe Burrow. So there a lot of things change in a year. The Caleb Williams and the Drake Mays, who we may think are just absolutely lights out, going to be 1, 2 in next year's draft. Things can change. And maybe, knock on wood, one of them gets hurt. Maybe, knock on wood, one of them has a horrible season this year. Things change. Maybe there's a quarterback in next year's draft that is good but hasn't emerged as being elite yet, but is going to do that this year. That's going to push some of these other quarterbacks down. So you never know what can happen in a draft. And, you know, I don't know if anybody thought that, you know, if everyone may have thought that Trevor Lawrence would have been in the Super Bowl by now. He was drafted first overall. He hasn't been in a Super Bowl yet. If I'm a Jacksonville Jags fan, I probably feel really encouraged by what I've seen from Trevor Lawrence yet. But is he a sure thing?
No player is a sure thing. More players have a bigger upside and a bigger sample size to say and predict that, okay, this is what this player will be. But to say that there's no quarterback in this year's draft that could potentially be a surefire hit, Bryce Young is a surefire hit. There's nothing about his play that anyone is knocking. Nothing. There is nothing about the way this man plays no one's knocking. What are they knocking? His height. Oh, he's 5'11", 180 pounds. That's the only thing. And y'all act like this man has been in bubble wrap his whole career in college. He did get hit in college last time I checked. So as far as his talent to play the quarterback position, there hasn't been any question. Correct me if I'm wrong. There hasn't been any question about his talent to play the quarterback position. It's just the size.
We've seen the talent.
Exactly.
We've seen that on full display. I mean, he is responsible single-handedly for a lot of Alabama's wins.
I will put his talent, up against Joe Burrow. I would put his talent, the way he's been playing, I'll put his talent up against any quarterback that has come out the last 10 or 15 years. He would match him talent for talent, stat for stat.
His mentality also is something that you don't find very often. He is so even keel that he can walk into practice and into the biggest game of the season and have the exact same heart rate. I think is a special quality. But size is a realistic thing.
Yeah.
If a GM is concerned about him getting hurt and the size being the reason, I don't blame that general manager for having some apprehensions. But also Bryce Young does so many things so well. He was the best player on the field, even in games that they lost. Against Tennessee, he was the best player on either sideline.
Every time he stepped on the field.
He was the best quarterback in college football.
Yes.
Yeah. He's special. But the size, I get the size. I understand the size. Doug and Franklin Texans asked D-Mase, do athletes take out career-ending injury insurance when they are in the NFL?
No. Not that I know of anyway. Maybe they do, like, in that contract year. I've seen a lot of guys do that. And if I can remember, I think I did take out one that last year. because you don't know what's going to happen. You know, you're going into your contract year that last year, you can get hurt. It's not taking out, you know, an insurance policy because of my production. It's taking out an insurance policy because I might have a, you know, career-ending injury. So, you know, I need, you know, something that's going to protect me from that. So, but beside that, I haven't heard of a guy, you know, taking out an insurance policy. I've heard guys take it out right before the draft, like their senior season in college, yes, or that contract year, yes, but like as a whole, no.
Why not?
Because it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. It's like, you know, it's one of those deals where, you know, if I already, like Jeffrey Simmons, for instance, I've already signed my contract. I'm already guaranteed X amount of money. And that X amount of money, if I do it right, I should be able to live off of, and my children should be able to live off of it as well if it's invested right. So why do I need to then pay an insurance company, you know, a premium just to have that? And how long am I going to hold that insurance policy?
When that contract really is your insurance policy.
The contract is my insurance policy. So that's why we talk about the guarantee money. How much guarantee money can I get? So I don't need to take out an insurance policy.
That makes sense. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, there's something in the NFL that I think we all feel like is pretty much going to happen. It feels good as done. But there is the teeniest, tiniest possibility that it doesn't get done. And if it doesn't, that could affect the Tennessee Titans. And we will get into that coming up next. And tune into Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game for the first 3 rounds on Thursday, April 27th and Friday, April 28th. Coverage presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, D&M Development, Smoky Mountaintops, Parman Energy, and B&B Flooring. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase and Michelle, and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Brought to you by Blend Bar with Davidoff Cigars. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, heads up to all the veterans out there listening. Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. So if you are out there, you're a veteran, pay attention to what Loan Pronto has to offer for you. If you're looking for cash to pay off credit cards, other high-interest loans, whatever bills you may have, how does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money that they need with a quick and easy, zero-cost cash out refi, zero closing costs. So with a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity lines, car loans. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month. So you can save on an average about $800 a month in a lot of cases. So call and find what your options are. Loan Pronto, simple number, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780. Or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Hey, Robby, Stanley here, and the NBA playoffs are here, and you can turn crossovers into cash with FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/Rob right now and place a $5 bet, and you'll get an instant $150 back in bonus bets, win or lose. So FanDuel, I've talked to you about it for a long time. They've got great promotions every single day. The app is safe and secure, and you get paid instantly. I like the Milwaukee Bucks coming out of the East, and I like the Phoenix Suns coming out of the West. But you can take it any way you want to take it. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Just go to FanDuel.com/Rob and sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet your first $5. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. You can see full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Got a gambling problem? Make sure you call the Tennessee Red Line today at 1-800-889-9789.
Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Hey Nashville, it's Chef Philip at Bar Lines at the Omni Hotel. Come try our new hot dog burn ends. Nathan's all beef hot dogs, smoked over pecan wood, tossed in honey sriracha barbecue, topped with a cool crema and crisp spring onions. One of my favorites.
Attending an event downtown? Dine at Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
It's electric in Smashville. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 429 has a new path to a dignified career. Local 429 is accepting applications for the highest skilled electricians and linemen and is providing the best training in Middle Tennessee. They are the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 429. Call them at 615-889-4429 or go online to ibew429.org. IBEW Local 429, your proud seventh man since the beginning. Go Preds.
Nashville's radio version of The Odd Couple.
This number makes more sense.
It does not make more sense.
It absolutely.
Robby, Stanley, and Joe Rexrode are Robby and Rexrode.
Yay, we win. We don't. We lose. No, I disagree.
Robby and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 9.
If you're good enough, you're good enough. It's absurd.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Join 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament benefiting Souls for Souls on June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebrities to support a great cause and have loads of fun doing it. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes, so sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at thegamenashville.com/golf. So Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports joins Robby and Rexrode every week, and he was on this morning with Robby and Rexrode, and they asked him about the Aaron Rodgers New York Jets situation, because even though we haven't really talked about it a ton, it still is not done. It is still not a deal that has not been inked quite yet. And Charles Robinson said that the holdup is the first-round pick situation, that the Packers want a first-round pick. The Jets do not want to give up a first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers. And I see both sides of the situation. If I'm Green Bay, I'm saying, it's Aaron freaking Rodgers. Give me a first-round pick. And if I'm the Jets, I'm saying, I'm paying him $100 million. No, I'm not going to give you the pick, and I'm not going to give you the money. So I don't blame either side, but just my interpretation of what Charles had to say was kind of at a standstill there. That it's that neither side is backing down, and that is what is holding up Aaron Rodgers from officially becoming a New York Jet. Now, I think it's going to happen. I think the general consensus is the deal's going to get done at some point.
Yeah, you're committed to it now in the sense of everybody knows the cat is out of the bag. Everybody knows you want Rodgers, and Rodgers wants to go to the Jets, and the Green Bay Packers want to get rid of Rodgers. Mm-hmm. So y'all can play this, back and forth tug of war all you want to. Ultimately, the Jets don't want to go into the season without Aaron Rodgers, and the Green Bay Packers don't want to go into the season with Aaron Rodgers on their roster.
Right.
So they're going to make something happen, maybe during the draft or subsequently right after the draft. I think something will happen.
Okay, but we predicted that it would get to this, right? Because both sides would have an argument. Well, we're going to trade you Aaron Rodgers. Come on. This is Aaron Rodgers. You got to give us something back. We should get a first-round pick. The Jets are going, well, who else is calling you?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers just went on TV, on the podcast, and said, I'll play for the Jets. There's no other team that will do that. We're the only team that's going to take him off your hands. We are not giving you anything. I really think the Jets have more leverage here. I think they can wait it out. I think the Packers just know that this has to be over. We cannot go back now. So I think they're going to get the lesser end of the deal as long as they want to wait. Now, the draft is coming, right? So if you want to make a deal that involves draft picks this year, you better get on it. That's the deadline. But like the waiting game, the game of chicken or whatever, I'd rather be the Jets than the Packers.
I understand what you're saying, and I like what you're saying. It could be 100% right. The Jets are getting Aaron Rodgers, but they want to add more help for him. And obviously Green Bay wants help for their starting quarterback, Love, whoever it's going to be. I don't think the Jets want to give up their first rounder this year. Next year be a different story. Why? Because they assume next year we're going to be a lot better, so we're going to be picking at the bottom of the first round anyway. So y'all can have that pick, but this pick we really want because maybe there's a player that they believe can fall to them at that pick that's going to help them.
That's a very fair point that, hey, we'll give you 2024 first-round pick. So I think it's going to get done. It has to get done. It has. Green Bay wants out from Aaron Rodgers so badly, and the Jets are almost guaranteed to their fan base that they're going to have Aaron Rodgers. The deal's going to get done. It has to get done, but it's not done. So there is the tiniest possibility that Aaron Rodgers could be a Green Bay Packer next year. That both sides are not willing to back down, and it just never happens. So then what does New York do? Charles Robinson was on with Robby and Rexford this morning and gave an alternative for the Jets.
You do kind of go down the avenue now of, okay, well, what would be the plan B? If there's any plan B out there, I think the easiest plan B for the Jets, if just absolutely stunner it doesn't work out with Aaron Rodgers, I think the easiest plan B is actually Tannehill. I really do. And I don't know when that would have to happen. I don't know when, if it's something where if the Titans were inclined to work a deal, whether they would want to do it before the draft or after. Most of the time, teams want to do it before, obviously. But I do think that's probably the easiest low rent, low compensation type of deal that would be there for the Jets if they just decide, hey, you know what? This isn't working with Rodgers. Like, we got to walk away. And it's not Aaron's fault. It's just the Packers aren't budging on this, and we're not going to screw with this anymore.
Okay. I would tend to agree that the Jets' second best option behind Aaron Rodgers at this point is Tannehill. He's a legitimate starting quarterback in this league. He's not Aaron Rodgers, but he's an option, and he's the best option out there. He's not Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield or any other, quarterback free agent at this point. But I'll always go back to, if that happens, then what's the Titans' plan?
The Titans' plan would be this. If it happens because this has to happen, I think. It has to happen during the draft. This whole move, if indeed they go after Tannehill, this happens.
The Titans would need a quarterback.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It has to happen during the draft. And the Titans are going to want enough in return so then they can package that with them moving up. So we're not, if I give you Tannehill, maybe I'm asking for your second this year. Not necessarily your first because, they can try to get a first, but more realistically, it's give me your second this year and maybe something else. So now I do that knowing that I potentially have a deal to move up. Now I got to figure out what that deal to move up entails. If it entails a first, switching first, and maybe a first next year and a second, well, I can use that second that I just got and package it in with moving up. But nothing's going to happen until I find out realistically what it's going to cost for me to move up. Now, if they don't do it before the draft, I can't see them doing it after the draft because unless the Titans get their quarterback, I can't see them then trading away Ryan Tannehill for future picks next year.
But I think the only way that makes sense is if you can go to 1 or 2. And I don't even know if that's possible.
You can go to 3 and still get the quarterback that you love.
So, but, okay, let's say if you get Anthony Richardson, for example.
They got to love him.
What have we said about Anthony Richardson? The one caveat that you have to give him a year. Yeah. You got to give him time. You got to let him develop. So then who's your quarterback?
Well, you'll find a quarterback. You'll get a quarterback.
I'm going to enter this into the discussion.
Okay.
You don't have to have the quarterback this year, even if you trade Tannehill. You could get a placeholder.
Yeah.
You could get a placeholder for a year. And you would have to maybe use the R word, the rebuild word, and like the texter said earlier, maybe throw your hat in the ring for the next year's crop where you might pick a little higher to start with. Just throwing that out there. It is an option if it gets to that. If you get blown away for the Tannehill offer. And you'll be in the catbird seat. If the Jets come calling, they're pretty desperate.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like it. But the Jets are going to be desperate. If it falls through with Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be desperate. How
So
desperate can they be?
Take advantage. Take advantage of who's desperate.
Yeah, I don't like it, but it's a possibility. That's going to do it for us today. Stillman & Company is up next. Barry Trotz with Jared Stillman at 5:30. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Predators in action tonight at 7 o'clock. Pregame at 6.
Be love and love on somebody.